That's an eternity of basketball ahead of us. Another beautiful steal perpetrated by Todd White. The action continues. The let's go situation here. Alexei Deacon going up against a double team. Jeffrey Moore has perfect access to the bucket. What you saw from that normal replay of that last bit of action was Fernandez actually wanting to take up the against pass to Jaworski. We're crossing the twilight zone. That's an eternity of basketball ahead of us.
Hello, everybody, and you're probably shocked and surprised to see me, and I'll explain why in a short while. But we have some things we have to say at the start of this edition of AEOB, or An Eternity of Basketball. Don't forget that we have other programs as well, such as the Who the Heck Are We? That great talk show, that podcast of the four sportscasters that we have, and talking about the latest issues in sports. Then we also have Hang Time with Denise Dinsay, and Denise used to be a courtside reporter, and she does a marvelous job of talking with our different sports personalities as well. Of course, everything sports, go to the globally Ballin website, and to be totally honest, I did that just now, and I discovered so many great things about sports that I did not know about until this day. And then, of course, Globally Ballin has a YouTube channel where you can subscribe. Nakalagay dito sa script ko, I must make a call to action, and you must subscribe. And of course, AEOB can also be heard on Spotify in audio form in case you're driving, doing something else, whether you're a plantito, you can listen to the guests and the questions of our dear friends. And of course, the Linktree plug, where you need to go to find everything Globally Ballin. And it's the anniversary of An Eternity of Basketball. So the three hosts asked me and Mr. Jay Mercado, who helps the program come into fruition. Jay, it's an honor for me, and I guess for you as well, to be here hosting instead of those three guys. Nako, Jay, punishment, nakamute ka.
Oh, sorry. Likewise, Sir Ed, Sir Sev, no? It's been 1 year. Who would have thought na aabot na 75 episodes tong AEOB? I guess there's one thing about the pandemic is that it has brought these three guys together and come up with a fantastic show online.
And this program has created its own niche and has been followed by not just an eternity, but a totality of fans who have loved basketball from time immemorial. Let's not take too long. Let's get into understanding how this program came around, what are the best parts of this program. We'll kind of structure it into a past, present, and future, because there's a ton of things that these guys have not yet done, Jay.
That's right. There are more guests that are expected to come in anytime. I guess the pipeline is that I think they have 3 more months worth of guests coming in.
Okay, and I think even if the pandemic disappears, this program should stay. So let's bring in our three hosts, the three stooges of the An Eternity of Basketball, who have made this pandemic a lot more bearable. We have, of course, Sid Ventura, the editor at ESPN5, who also dabbled for a while as a UAAP analyst. We're going to talk to him later on. We also have Noel Zarate, who has been relieved of the opening here today. You do not hear his awesome broadcast voice and his sometimes American accent. And let's now bring in also attorney Charlie Cuna, who completes the cast, and attorney who loves Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who is celebrating his birthday today, and you'll understand why in a short while. I'll throw the first question, and I'm guessing, because Sid told me about this a long time ago. Sid, how did this program start? How did this idea come from? Maybe let's start with you.
Well, actually, you're right. When it started during the pandemic, we were trying to look for something to do because there was no basketball, no sports whatsoever. And then PBA Rush started showing these fan favorites, these games from the 70s and the 80s, and that was really a thrill for people like me who grew up in the 80s. And then I thought, what if we analyze these games on Twitter, on Facebook? I pitched the idea to Charlie and Noel, just go back in time and break down how this and that, the star from the 80s would move, yung mga moves ni Samboy Lim or ni Mon Fernandez, because watching those games brought back so many memories about how great these players were. Lalo na when Toyota Crispa pinapalabas, or my favorite, Great Taste, and so we thought of analyzing the games, breaking it down, pero medyo komplikado pala eh. So, you need the right equipment to do that, and the right skills to edit and pause and rewind, stuff like that. So parang it evolved into something else. Why don't we just talk to people, basketball people from the 80s, and then why don't we make it a regular show? And the name An Eternity of Basketball was actually suggested by Noel. We were thinking of a catchy phrase, something na sinasabi ni Joe Cantada or what, and then Noel came up with the perfect, the perfect show title, I must say, An Eternity of Basketball. So that's how it started. Well, we were just three old fools from the 80s, bored, nothing to do, and we wanted to relive our memories. We wanted to relive our childhood by interviewing our childhood idols.
Okay, I will ask the second question, then I'll let Jay ask a few questions also. Charlie, I am envious of your ability to remember so much from the 80s and the 90s, and even details of the games. How much of a fan were you, and how thrilling was this to be part of such a program like AEOB?
First of all, good morning sa lahat ng ating mga followers. And thanks a lot to Sev and Jay for being here with us sa araw na ito, this momentous occasion. 1 year na po ang AEOB. Really, really big fan, no? Because it's really influenced by my father, who was working for the Tanduay Group at the time. When I was a kid in the 70s, he worked for the Elizalde Group of companies, which owned Eco and Tanduay. So from day one, he was talking about basketball. He was watching basketball. He was involved with the team as well. So that's obviously an influence from your father. Most of us have that, And then so I watched my first PBA game. I was probably 4 or 5 years old. He dragged me along to Araneta Coliseum, the smoke-filled Araneta Coliseum, and then I met some of the players because we would enter the dugout. And then from that time on, obviously you're following Tanduay, you're following Crispa and Toyota. And then he was an Atenista as well, like you, Sir Sev. So he was talking about Ateneo and how they would be champions all the time. Barkada niya si Edo Campo, classmate niya kasi. So I met Tito Ed early on. So you meet all these people, and obviously you're influenced by that. So it's really a thrill for this to have happened. Nabanggit ni Sid earlier, our limitations on the technical side, because we didn't know what to do online, how to put videos on Zoom, the video drags. So these limitations led us to AEOB, just to talk to one person and to ask him questions and learn from him. And then, so it was really, grabe yung kilig namin to be on front of Jong with Chico and Tim Cone and Alan Kaidik, Jolas in those early episodes of ours. And it just snowballed, Who would have thought we'd be talking to all these greats? My God, Philip Cesar, Atoy Co, and of course my idol El Presidente, Mon Fernandez. Kilig na kilig kami every episode. Yan sa akin.
Ay naman, hindi naman halata. Before Jay asks his question, nakita ko sa ating screen, Maaya Bengi Gil Cortez na ating first PBA Rookie of the Year at Hill, very active in basketball dyan sa Pampanga, of course. Jay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, kay Noel ang question ko. Sid mentioned kanina that you were the one who conceptualized or who came up with the title, An Eternity of Basketball. Where did that come from? Obviously, alam natin, Joe Cantada brought it up. Pero normally kasi, di ba, pag yung title mo, 4 words, hindi mo masyado mahaba yan, mahirap i-recall yan, etc. What made you come about with this particular title?
Actually, I just thought about it. I was walking with my daughter, di ba, pandemic, wala tayong ginawa, kundi maglakad sa village.
Yeah.
Tapos tama-tama, nag-message kasi Sid doon, think about the title na sinasabi ni something probably that Joe Cantada says. Sabi ko, how about An Eternity of Basketball? It just popped in there. Tapos yun nga, nag-stick. Sabi ni, yung reaction pa ni, reply pa ni Sid, naalala ko, pwede, hehehe. Yun lang, yung reaction niya. And I know when Sid says something, hehehe, he likes it na. So, pero yun yung magiging springboard doon.
Pero yung title na yon, was that the one that came how do you call it? Doon nakuha yung concept or yung concept muna tapos title? Kasi obviously when you say at the eternity of basketball, you're going to bring in old guests, no, from the stars of the 70s and the 80s, no. Ano na una? Yung title o yung concept?
Actually, kinuwento nga ni Sid kanina the concept of kami ni Charlie were supposed to break down these old games, and then he said na let's just do a show na lang na may kausap tayo. So it was more of nakita ko yung the need of bringing up something that will talk about these guys and make them immortal also eventually. Kasi daming na guest natin dito, Jay, and you know this, na nakalimutan na ng tao who they are. Diba? I mean, who remembers Marty Saldana? Who remembers Rene Canet? Diba? Those are the guys Alex Marquez. Diba? I mean, those are the guys that we guested on the show na sila pala yung gano'n, siya pala si Kamikaze Kid. Diba? Siya pala si Rambo. At least yun, isa na silang napakilala. And that's of course, and of course our good friend Ricky Relosa, who was one of our first guests na galing sa abroad din. Napakilala natin siya sa mga tao. And especially Abby King, who akala ni Abby King nakalimutan na siya ng tao. So that's one of the things also that inspired me to think about an eternity of basketball. Let's bring them in for all eternity.
Yeah, if I may add to that, we were thinking of a title that we knew would resonate with the 80s. If I remember correctly, parang if someone who grew up in the 80s saw that phrase, parang alam ka agad na what the show is about. So, yun, tama-tama talaga, an eternity of basketball kasi Joe Cantada line. The funny thing is, we were trying to look for a clip of Joe Cantada saying that it was only for the Joe Cantada episode that we finally found.
Over almost a year.
Yeah. Talagang we were scouring YouTube, lahat ng mga Joe Cantada clips, waiting for him to say it. Wala talaga. Pero tamang-tama for the Joe Cantada episode, we finally found one.
My turn. You obviously have had some experience working on television, and we all made that pivot, that adjustment. Tell us of the early, quote, I'll say it out loud, the struggles dealing with Zoom, the other formats. Sid has the nice snicker and laugh. I'll start with you, Sid, and we'll pass it to Charlie, then Noel. Sige, Sid, ikaw muna.
Actually, ang tawag sa akin ni Noel na nasa witness protection program nung first few episodes because I didn't know anything about lighting. Stuff like that. Wala akong So my lighting was always behind me. So pag may screenshot, hindi nakikita yung mukha ko. Stuff like that I had to learn on the fly. And the biggest challenge though was finding the right platform to record the show. Kasi noong una we weren't live We recorded on Zoom. So I had to study Zoom. Tapos if kung free account ka, we found out hanggang 40 minutes lang yung yung pwede mong i-record, no? So, in the middle of our earlier interviews, nangyari to kay Yeng Giao, nangyari to kay Bong Alvarez, kay Tim Cone, Norman Black. Pag malapit na yung nakikita ko na malapit na maubos yung time, I'd have to tell the guest, hey, coach, wait lang maubos na yan natin Okay, I'll send you another link. We'll continue the interview. Mabuti na lang walang nainis or nagalit. I guess everyone understood how difficult it was. And then,
itong grupon to, free account pa.
Yep. And then we'd have to record again. And then, nakikiusap na lang kami nun sa mga kaibigan namin na marunong mag-edit at piece together ng different videos. So we upload it sa Facebook page namin I think 4 or 5 days after the actual interview. So, ang naman, mas pulido, pero walang audience interaction. So finally, I decided to get a premium account sa Zoom para walang time limit, which binabayaran ko every month, pero okay lang kasi I get to talk to my family also every week on Sunday na limitless. So nakikinabang namang ako doon. So yun, that's how it started.
Charlie, ikaw, from being on television, used to it, then suddenly we had to shift to this format. Of course, we did this also on Sports Page. You did this over a longer stretch here on AEOB.
I think many of us were not used to this online platform talaga. What really frustrated us at the start, first of all, I had an old laptop. So I was using an old 10-year-old laptop. The camera really was really bad. No matter what you do, kahit maganda yung lighting mo, mukhang blurred pa rin, di ba? And so you see yourself and you don't like what you're seeing there. And then the internet connection, this is something we weren't used to, di ba? Parang now it's normal for us. You can get cut off in the middle of whatever meeting you're in and it's normal. You'll be back later on. You try to reconnect. But at the start, you were frustrated because you were losing your friends. You were saying something and all of a sudden they'll say, pare, nawala ka. Can you repeat what you said? Di ba? And you didn't realize it. You were frozen or the people you're talking to are frozen as well. And so because we were just learning that really frustrated me. There was a couple of episodes early on after just a double digits na tayo na I think with the Martires and I think with Coach Leo Austria I was gone for maybe 5-10 minutes and I come back and you don't know where to insert yourself anymore kasi baka napag-usapan na yung gusto mo itanong. So that was really frustrating. But it's right what Sid said na early on talaga we would cut the episodes and if our followers would watch the first few episodes, may mga comments na lumalabas na bago, grabe yung first episodes nyo. Parang ang gulo-gulo, parang hindi pa ninyo alam yung nangangapa pa kayo. You see the comments. So pati sila napansin nila yun. So there was an evolution rin as time went on, as episodes kept piling up. So at least gumanda naman, di ba?
Yes. And this is fun, Jay, no? All of them are aching to speak. Notice Noel, he wants to talk.
He always wants to talk.
This is death to him. But no, come on, let's get him out of his misery. Noel, ikaw, how did you take those early slips, those early struggles? Anong reaction mo about it? Anything that was memorable about the early slips?
Well, ako yung unang number one na pinapagalitan kasi unlike the two gentlemen who work with me, telepono ang gamit ko for the show. So hindi ko alam kung paano ko i-angle, gano'n talaga nakatelepono lang ako. Tapos syempre, hindi ko na alam na kailangan mo i-mute yung telepono. Nung minute ko naman, nagba-vibrate naman siya. So lahat ng tunog ng telepono ko, medyo nasisira yung mga initial episodes natin because you'll hear John Wichico is talking about something. Hindi gumagano na lang bigla. So, I didn't know yet at the time kung paano ko gagawin. Eventually nga, I did Charlie's lead. Ginamit ko na yung laptop. And now, eto na, high-tech na. Desktop, naka-LAN cable na ako. Maganda na yung camera. So talaga it has evolved. Even the lighting. Bumili pa tuloy si Mrs. ng ring light para lang sa akin. So, mamaya siya na yung nakinabang ng ring light. Di ko na nagagamit. Wala akong ring light ngayon. Pero initially, parang si Sid nga, sinasabi nga niya, he was in witness protection program for the first 5 episodes. Kasi nga hindi niya alam yung lighting.
We have the photos.
Ganyan ako dati. Wala akong ilaw
Mas malala pa dyan. As in, kita lang yung baba mo. Ayan lang. Pero yun na nga, that was the struggle sa amin lahat because wala kaming producer, wala kaming EP. Look at that.
That's the first episode.
Kita pa si Sid dyan. Yeah, kita pa si Sid dyan.
I can actually hear John Wichico's voice. Hindi ko kayo makita. Nasaan ba kayo?
Si Coach Jong ang best lighting of all, napansin mo. Tapos ang ganda rin ng audio niya. Look at that.
Okay. Pero tayo, tinan mo yung atin. Ikaw, maganda ka pa, Noel.
Boy, this you could call this the prehistoric era of Zoom transmission during the pandemic, as we all struggled. Jay, you have a question for the guys?
Yeah. How long did this take? I mean, syempre, aside from the lighting, all the struggles, yung Zoom, yung pagputol-putol, etc., yung internet problems, how long did this take before you finally were able to move on and come up with a more perfect episode? Which one, in other words, what was your first perfect episode without the technical moves?
Parang wala
Parang every episode may glitch
Yeah, there's something that happens every episode.
What was the most common? What was the most common technical glitch apart from all the things that you mentioned earlier?
Yung gaganito ka. Tapos salita ka ng salita. Hindi mo alam na nag-freeze ka na pala, no? Nagsalita ka na sila. Sid, you're frozen. Ganun. Ang dami mo na sinabi, tapos ano pala, no? Hindi ka pala
there was one episode na alala ko, I think it was Tito Varela that we had on live yun, yung Tito Varela. I think we were talking 17 minutes. Kaming tatlo lang, nagkwekwentuhan lang kami for 17 minutes habang inaayos ng anak ni Tito Varela yung kanyang connection. Nung naayos na, okay na. Tapos nawala na naman. Salita na naman kami. Ilang minuto rin yan. Hi to Coach Rino Salazar.
Hi, Coach Rino. Then there was one time I actually forgot to record the first 15 minutes of the Team Cone interview on Zoom. I forgot to record it.
Kanina.
Kay Team Cone. Kaya yung start na kay Team Cone parang...
Hindi ba live na si Team Cone?
Hindi, ano pa rin yan.
Nagkamali siya. He didn't press the record. So, mga 5 minutes in na tayo nung na-realize ni Sid.
Yung,
To record it.
he was talking about how it started in the Philippines. Wala. That's forever lost.
Kasi nagsimula yun, pinag-uusapan na niya si Porta Cuna eh. Ay, di ba? Maganda
Yeah.
yata.
That's where it started.
Did you end up deciding who would do what at the start? No, if Charlie and Noel are both anchormen and say this for the analysts, was there any? At what point did you decide Noel opens? Charlie, yeah.
Mostly it was really Noel or I would be the one to open up, no, because that's, as you said, that's what we do talaga. But then as it evolved, we said if you invited the guest, you should be the one to moderate. You'll be the one to open, and then you'd moderate. So more or less ganun yung pangyayari. So there's been a couple of times that si Sid has also opened the show for us. I think it's the Willie Pearson and Ronnie Magsano episode.
How was it? How was it?
I was horrible.
I'm seeing something here that we have a video though.
I was horrible, sabi ni Sid.
Was that the episode where Sid said never again?
Ito, kita mo naman, naka-UP jersey pa ako dyan.
You know, I dropped by because this is a Ronnie Magsano. Ronnie and I work together so much, and I got to know him really well. And I dropped by, and I found it so exciting that you three were in your UP shirts at that time, diba? And then Ronnie is the only one who is not in his UP shirt. Obviously, did not know that he had to wear maroon on that day. My question for the guys. Charlie said that at heart, all of us are fans. But did it come to a point, was it tempting to ask about controversies? How difficult was it? Were there any struggles? Like the Atoy Co thing came on later on. We'll talk about that later on. But was there a particular guest you wanted to ask something about that you remembered from the past that was controversial rather? Was it hard to ask that question? Anybody want to answer? Sid, start.
Fernandez, very easily. We wanted to ask about his feud with Coach Sonny, and that time he got benched by Chris Calilan, Pure Foods. No, pero we just went with it. We asked. Pero kailangan mo rin tansyahin eh.
Yes.
Kung if the guest is willing, no, malalaman mo naman yan eh, midway through the how willing he is to answer your question. So yung came on, I remember I was the one who asked that what happened there with you and Sonny? What happened with that feud? And he readily answered na it was parang basically two alpha males just clashing for the leadership of and he felt that Coach Sonny was parang naasar sa kanya towards the end of the 82 season when he gave an interview, and he said he said daw na Coach Sonny was injured na, maybe he should consider retirement, and because he's not the player who he once was, and apparently Jaworski was very but that was his take, but no one ever knew that. Diba? No one ever knew that. Iba yung lumabas sa media. That was the first time he was sharing that information. Pero yun, that was a very revealing interview. And then also what he said about why he was benched sa Pure Foods and the pain that he went through when he got traded, and all these rumors started coming out. I'm glad now we actually went through and asked those questions of I don't know the other two if they have
actually time seems to be a good healer, right? Because if you ask the questions at the height of when it's happening, you find them hesitant asking about it, these issues, these controversies. You want to get the answer at that time, but they won't because of various reasons. Anybody else that struggles with questions? Noel, ikaw.
Well, yung actually yung isang tail end ng episode namin with Turo Valenzuela, we were about to wrap it up already, and then all of a sudden, natawa na si Sido. Then all of a sudden, Turo says, Attorney, can I consult with you? So kami gulat namin, ano kaya ito i-consult ni Coach Turo? Then he goes about an entire line or an entire monologue about the hiring of Phil Foreign students dito sa liga natin, and then he was ranting already about it. Tapos kami tatlo nagbe-message each other, somebody stop him, somebody, ganun na kami lahat. Hindi namin alam kung paano namin pipigilan. yung tira niya. And it was directed at Charlie. So I don't know what Charlie felt about that at the time. Pero si Charlie yung kausap, Attorney, can I consult with you? Ganun pa ni
On the air, na-consult on the air.
Kung pwede raw foreign coaches and foreign players, kung legal ba daw yun, ganyan. Sabi ko.
So paano nyo na-resolve? Paano nyo tinapos yung kanyang litanya?
Ako kasi lead host yata noon at the time. So the moment na tumigil, okay, let's go. Talagang total pinalitan ko na lang talaga yung eksena. Kasi si Sid, medyo nalalaki na yung mata ni Sid. Hindi na niya alam kung ano mangyayari next.
Coach Turo had no filter in that episode. They would, use politically incorrect terms. Pero, he didn't mean anything by it. Kasi talagang, force of habit na yung...
Yeah, no, he was real. He was so real. Kaya nga, marami natuwa doon actually sa episode na yun kasi very real siya as well as Onchi, as well as Philip. I mean, then that's how it is. But yung sa akin was really, I didn't know how to ask Vic Sanchez why he ended Donnie Ray Kunz's career. So I just said, paano yung kay Donnie Ray Kunz? Tapos siya na yung nagkwento, di ba? And that's how we do it. But because we know that Donnie Ray Kunz, never was the same after that fall. But that Vic denied it, and he said that he was just in the crowd, and it could have been anyone there that tinamaan ni Donnie Ray Kunz. But at least, and that's something you had to ask about Vic. Sa dami ng hits ni Vic on his opponents, that's the one that everybody remembers. And they pinpoint him for ending the career of Donnie Ray Kunz. So he was able to at least explain his side. Okay. That's a nice thing. I like the way they explain their side.
Jay wants to ask a question, but hold on. I'd just like to give a word of advice for future sportscasters who might be watching this. In case you do your own version of an eternity of basketball in the future, and you have Calvin Abueva, please allow time to heal, and he will be able to answer all your questions. Don't ask him about them now. Ask them 10 years ahead, 15 years. If there's anything you learn from this show, AEOB, that's it. Jay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'll give them the chance to brag about something, no? So, ang tanong ko yun dyan, what's the secret? Ano siya, paano nyo napapa-reveal yung players na yan, yung mga guests niyo to come up with these answers?
Well, actually, that's a technique that all of us know already. It's just being comfortable with them. We ask the guests to come in like 15-20 minutes before the show. 90% of the time, nauuna yung guest namin kay Sid Ventura pumasok sa show. So Charlie and I already have them, di ba, nakukuha na namin yung kiliti nila. But there are some guests, Jay and Sev, na talagang alam mong we're going to have a problem with them sa simula. Emer Legaspi is very shy. Diba? Jimmy Manansala when he guested. Freddie Hubalde, yun yung mga tipong shy talaga sila, ayaw nila magsalita. Pero the moment you get them going, you push the right button sa kanila. The three of us have this innately in us na alam namin kung anong buton ng pipindutin. Si Freddie Hubalde, naalala ko that episode, overtime na tayo, may mga hinihirit pa siya, gusto namin itigil. Sabi, makwento ko lang. Si Freddie Hubalde, ayaw lang tumigil. Sabi, makwento ko lang. Talagang, they come to a point that they're no longer shy at the midway point of the show. And at the same time naman, yung mga guests na iba, kailangan namin rendahan. Nagsabi namin, Jay, pare, ingat, easy lang tayo sa mura. Hindi ako mumura, okay lang yan. Wala pa 30 minutes, may mura na.
There are some guests na before the show, the three of us would Viber and say, siguro, itong si hindi na lalapas 1 hour to. Hindi masyado madaldal to eh.
May lang to.
Yung career niya, hindi naman ganun kahaba. Pero wala, that never happens. It always ends up stretching for 2 hours. Kasi once mag-umpisa na yung guest, dire-diretso na siya eh. Magkwento.
I think they also appreciate the fact na kahit papaano, alam natin yung nangyari sa kanila, yung panahon nila eh. Di ba? We're not asking them from out of nowhere na where did you play? Di ba? How did you start? Sinong kalaban mo? We kind of know because we watch them somehow to a certain extent. No, and maybe a couple of them we didn't really get to watch. We didn't get to watch Jimmy Mariano as a player already, but at least we did see him as a coach, and so you have to be familiarized, I suppose, and they know, no? Natutuwa sila. Naalala mo yun? The guest asked us, bakit mo naalala yun? Well, either we studied it because we knew you were going to be our guest, or we really watched it way back then, or nakwento ng airpot natin, or whatever, and I think they appreciate that. Diba?
Ay, buti na lang hindi ako host dito sa programang ito, kundi puro matandang basketball ang pinag-usapan dito kasi napanood si Jamie Mariano sa Rizal Memorial. But guys, when did you realize that you were striking a chord? When did you say that, hey, this is not so bad? What was the turning point? When did you think that, hey, people are actually tuning in on Saturdays and listening? to the, except for James T, who listens to everything in Philippine basketball. I know he's going to say something here today, but James T, you are already unforgettable because you have been mentioned in this program. Thank you, James T. Okay. When did Charlie, when did you know that you were cutting a corner and this was going somewhere?
Actually, for me, I saw the reaction of the followers on the page to the Marty Saldana episode.
Oh, really?
It's really the because before that, I mean, we had Jong with Chico, we had Jolas,
Team ko nyo marami.
Yeah, but that was great. But these are guys that people had been seeing. That's why we invited them, because we had been seeing them because of the PBA coverage, diba? So we were in close contact with these guys, so it was easy to invite them. They're still very much in the limelight. But then somebody offered, si Michael Yu, you're our friend from New Jersey, New York. He said, si Marty Saldana nandito, can we, diba? Can I invite him for you guys, diba? And when he came on the show, really the reaction was, my God, it's the Mighty Might, and I didn't understand, but then I guess I do now, no? But at that time I thought, wow, but ganun yung reaction ng tao kay Marty Saldana. And I think from then on, Ricky Relosa, Abby King,
King talaga, malaki Abby King sa akin.
But that was the point. We turned the corner. At Marty Saldana, we turned the corner, and then boom, we were on a highway already after that. Parang ganun.
Was Marty Saldana your first guest na outside the Philippines?
Yes.
Yes. Even online, kasi sometimes as in my role as a managing editor of ESPN FIBA, I'd asked some of my writers, lalo na si Richard D, who's also a child of the 80s, to write off of the episode. And the Marty Saldana, although that was Michael Yu who actually wrote about it, he asked if he could write about the episode. So pinagbigyan ko si Mike, and he wrote a very beautiful piece on Marte. Grabe ang reaction online, yung number of page views. Pati ako, I was blown away.
I think there are some fans who are not Toyota or Crispe. There are some fans who are, I would call, anti-establishment, meron mga teams na gano'n di ba? May mga fans na gano'n din. Marty Saldana was quite a player. Efficiency di ba? Magaling talagang player. So, now, you turn the corner. Let me ask the Atoy Co episode, which has created so much interest. Steer, hit a hornet's nest. You use all your sports cliches for this one. Who asked the question? How did that come about? And what did Atoy Co? Did he regret saying that in the episode? Or Atoy, when he tells the story, he tells it with conviction. Anybody want to answer?
Sorry,
I asked that question because in the PBA's 25 greatest, first 25 years, there was really that quote, that Atoy said, that Jaworski doesn't have a signature move. He's just an average player, ordinary player. Although he did follow that up with a paragraph that says, but he, what he lacked there, he made up for in charisma and motivation. As a great coach, what a great personality. But of course, the question had to be asked, what do you mean by ordinary player? So I asked Atoy that, and definitely Atoy has no regrets in whatever he says. That's the kind of guy he is, no? So nung sinabi talaga niya na talaga naman ordinary play, wala naman signature move and all of that, he said it as a matter of fact, and that's really what he believes, that his conviction about Sonny Jaworski. But he did even say on the episode, pero iba naman yung bawi ni Sonny, di ba? Meron siyang, di ba, magaling siya sa tao, sa ganyan. And he did say that, he echoed that. But of course, people will hear what they want to hear, di ba? So kung Toyota fan ka, aba, ordinary player si Idol, hindi pwede yan. And that really, as you said, stirred up a hornet's nest. And then the discussion went everywhere. It went on the broadsheets, went on websites and all of that. And even in I'm sure the Inumans, the limited Inuman, whether on Zoom or in small groups, with the social distancing, pumutok din yan. Pero ganun talaga yan. I had to ask that question kasi sinabi talaga natin yan.
Hang on. While you're at it, I understand from our production staff that we have the video of this moment.
Yeah.
Let's try to answer this.
Ano ba yung mga flaws? Kasi alam na lahat, he can do everything. Ano ba yung mga
living legend ka, di ba?
Hindi, parang do everything. Hindi, wala ka siya paid away.
Yeah.
Oo nga, no?
Yun, sorry pero he doesn't score that much. Di ba? Yes. Si Jaworski, more on the authority, siya ang nagdadala ng laro. Kung kailangan niya ipapasa, kailangan niya i-dribble, siya yung nagdadala. Parang siya ang pinaka-point guard talaga, ang pinakalaro doon. Kaya lang, minsan talaga, may nangyayari yun. Kailan, bilang titira naman, nakshoot naman di ba? Kaya, pero hindi siya well-known talagang scorer naman talaga. Hindi yun talagang, ano ba let's say, babalikan ko yung tanong, ano ang parang trademark ni Sonny pag sa let's say pag lang si Alan kay Dick, the trigger match, di ba? Sa Boy Lim there what Sonny
Big J.
Big J, pero
Bariling Big J.
Ano ang trademark na move niya? Ayun ako sasagot ko.
Behind the back pass.
Sandali naman yun. Ang trademark nun, mga rate, bago ka tumira.
Yo, karate.
Okay.
Grabe
I
pa
think
naman, ang laki pa naman ng kamay.
I think we get the gist to this. Alam mo,
pero kidding aside,
okay.
Okay na.
Just to bring things back into the present, you know what, that episode, I didn't see that, but having heard that before from Atoy in a different situation also, ito, mas maganda sabihin sa Tagalog yung mga lumang sugat ng Toyota at Crispa ay biglang hindi na naghihilom Biglang gumising, di ba, Jay? Yung mga tulog na simbo yun, ang damdamin ng Toyota Crispa.
Yeah, I mean, you should see all the yung mga Facebook pages ng Crispa at saka Toyota. Talaga nag-aaway yung fans. Yung mga tatanda na naman yan, mga 50s. And yet nag-aaway sila. Just trying to correct the impression or try to validate what Atoy mentioned. Ang galing.
So what did you think of the reaction? Sid, ikaw muna, from a print or an online editor's point of view. What was your...
I knew it was big when other sites picked up on it and wrote about it. Yeah. But if they write off of other shows, then then that means the topic is very controversial. So it showed up on ABS-CBN, it showed up on other platforms as well. So yun yung parang pinaka-litmus test. If other outlets are writing about it, then it was really juicy yung na yun. And if I add also, it gave us an automatic question for future guests, lalo na yung may ties to Toyota or Crispa. Automatic yan, natatanong na namin, anong tingin mo sa sinabi ni Atoy na ordinary player lang daw si Jaworski. Ayun, so that would give us an additional 15
And Francis Arnaiz actually had a lot of harsh words about it also nung siya yung nag-guest na coming to the defense of Jaworski right after that. Pero I remember also after that episode kasi si Atoy Co actually, I was the one who invited Atoy Co on the show. So text sa akin. Yung sinabi ko ba, masama ba yung sinabi ko? Nagte-text siya gano'n. Siyempre, ako naman sabi, coach, that's what you meant at the time Parang maraming nagagalit sa akin ngayon. Ang daming nag-send ng message daw. So pati siya, tinitira na rin ng mga fans sa personal Facebook page niya after that. And tama sinabi ni Jay, that, and ni Sev, na that brought out all of the old wounds of Crispa and Toyota online. Makikita mo yung mga grupo, nagpapatayan na sila. So that was a turning point to the turning point kasi that was, I think, was before Marte, Itong episode natin kay Atoy. Was it before Marte?
Hindi, nauna si Marte.
So the turning point continued na. So bumuelo na all the way. That put the show more in the limelight because of that.
There's a great comment here. Comments from viewers who watch the players are awesome that we didn't know. That's the beauty of the show, sabi ni John Alston Morales. I think also because this was in the Atoy Co episode was in the early days that we were still trying to get familiar with the medium, that we now realize, hey, this might not be television, but the online wilderness is larger than all of us put together, and therefore that's what Atoy and all of us discovered. Any more, just looking ahead, after our halftime break here, Jay is going to lead these guys in a game that we're going to play. We're going to, they have no idea what's going to happen here. This is the whole point of this, despite a production meeting in the course of the week. Were there any more surprises that are unforgettable from this show? Let's start with Charlie.
Surprises. There were certain guests that we felt may not be too attractive for the followers, but of course our followers are really solid pala. I realized that afterwards, but But prior to certain guests, we're like, baka hindi masyadong maraming manunood this weekend, di naman sikat yung player natin. But we have this mentality, we have this attitude that everybody has his own story anyway, and it's worth telling.
Correct.
Imagine, umabot ng PBA yan, tayo hindi, di ba? So umabot ng PBA yan, may kwento yan. Superstar yan nung high school, nung college, kaya umabot ng PBA yan. So let's give it a try. And so we did that for a couple of guys who weren't too popular. Exactly, that's the one. That's why I was leading to that. And the Cho season episode for me was really revealed how much of fans we have as followers here. They're really crazy basketball guys because they knew everything about Cho season. In that short PBA career that he had, they knew. They were commenting about him back in Davao, etc., etc. Plus, what a great guest he was because he was very inspirational. He was very eloquent. He told the stories, life lessons, and all of that. And so people were like, I didn't know this guy. I remember one comment, I didn't know this guy, but now I'm a fan of his. Parang ganon. Kasi parang ang tindi ni Cho season talaga. So much wisdom in that episode that he had. And who would have thought, a guy who played for 2 years, 2.5 in the PBA, Rookie of the Year nga, pero after that, na-injure. So imagine yung impact niya. So that's one of them really. But I'm sure there were others.
Season was great taste, but
Great
this brings just before everybody else answers. Sid, I think we find out through this program how many Great Taste fans there actually were, no? And Great Taste, they were probably at the height of Pure Food siguro, and later on Tanduay. There was a follow. Maraming asars of Great Taste kasi they were getting all the good players and they were winning all these championships. Muntik nga mag-Grand Slam in 1 year. Noel, any surprises for you in this show?
Just to add to that great tasting, I think si Sid yata has something to do with what's being shown on PBA Rush kasi parating great taste games. Great taste San Miguel. Great taste. Puro great taste ang napapanood natin dito. So, I think Sid has something to do with that. Then yung sa akin lang, I mean with regards to the guests, yung there was one episode na naalala ko, we were gonna guest Manny Paner, and I was very excited about guesting Manny Paner. Pero when we did some internet testing, ito yung mahirap dito yung internet testing, sumasablay internet testing. And this was in the middle of the pandemic na paglabas mo baka may chance ka mahawa. So what I did is I did a really stupid thing in at least in my family's opinion, na kinuha ko si Manny Paner sa bahay niya. Dinala ko sa bahay ng ibang tao, doon kami nag-show para lang matuloy yung episode ni Manny Paner. And I think from that moment on, that was showing na this is how much I love what I'm doing already. I am willing to risk my life to bring a guest to Kainta para lang matuloy yung show natin. So for me, that was a big thing na matuloy lang yung episode, wag lang mabitin yung fans. Kasi in-announce namin na si Manny Paner ang guest namin. So I at that moment, and my family disagreed with me at the time, I moved heaven and earth para lang matuloy yung episode with Manny Paner. That was one of my yung recollection ko talaga.
Jay?
Yeah, eventually nag-morph yung show, no? Initially, panay PBA personalities lang. And then suddenly you brought in like NBA personalities na. First, I think was this referee, no?
Jesse Thompson.
Jesse Thompson, no? What triggered that move?
Well, yung Jesse Thompson kasi was believe it or not, at the time we couldn't find a guest. That was the reason for it. And then I was talking to Jesse Thompson about something else. Sabi ko, hey, you want to guest on our show? You have a good story to tell about you did Michael Jordan's first ever NBA game. You were the referee in Michael Jordan's first ever NBA game. On that alone, maganda na yung storya doon. And then you did several all-star games. You've been in the country so many times. So yung mga ganung connections, sabi ko, Jess, why don't you come over to the show? And let's see. And of course, Jess Thompson being more of a dinosaur. I think Jess Thompson, if I'm not mistaken, was the oldest guest we ever had. Yes, 80 years old, you know? 83 na ba si Jesse ngayon?
I think so.
Turo.
Yeah, mga ganon. And then, being that guest na he was, na ginagamit yung telepono niya, so half of the show, may kita mo, ilong lang niya. Yung mga ganon. But at least you're able to still extract all of the stories from him. So that was the reason why talaga, Jay, we didn't have a guest at the time. And then eventually we started bringing in imports. And then I think it was Sid who thought about Raymond Thompson. Raymond Thompson.
No, but he reached out to us. He's the one.
You're right. Yeah.
Raymond Townsend sent us a message. We saw it in the inbox. I think you're the one who saw it, Noel. And he said, when am I going to be on your show? He said. So I said, why not? But it is an eternity of basketball. Hindi naman it's an eternity of PBA. So, you know, if basta basketball related, if we can get someone from the EuroLeague also, a EuroLeague legend, we can put him on the show as well. Diba?
Okay, the question here is how much preparation goes into this? Because my corollary question to this, it's easy to ask questions of a guest that you know so well. Diba? Yung popular, but a show season comes along and you may not know in depth. Well, what kind of preparation is done in informing the questions, or is this all, bahala na, let's just sit in on a Saturday and let's see where the show goes? Sid, let's go with you.
Well, there's a saying in media, the more famous a person, the harder it is to write about him or talk about him because everything is out there na. No, mahirap maghanap ng bagong information. So ako personally, whoever the guest is, however famous he was or not famous he was, syempre I do my due diligence. I go on his Wikipedia page if he has one. It's harder if he doesn't. No, pero yeah, I do my research also. Baka I missed out on something. I don't know all of their backgrounds pagdating sa college and high school. So I make sure I'm updated with that, and then I try to recall lang some stuff about that player, no, na baka nakalimutan ko na over the years. So yun, and then yun, 2 days before we have the guest on a dry run, just to for 50 minutes, just to make sure his internet is working, and we make him feel comfortable. Now we give him the lowdown, what's gonna happen, what's gonna go on. We ask him, have you watched any previous episodes? So you'll get an idea of what's coming, ganun. So yun, parang breaking the ice 2 days before, and then parang on the day itself, komportable na sila sa setup.
Right.
Maganda kasi rin sa show na to, it's timeline based. So yung research mo na lang is very detailed about the timeline lang. Pero it always starts with the same question. How did you start playing basketball? How old were you? Who taught you? Who were your early idols? And from there, you can actually build several branches. To be honest with you, I think the most studied host among the three of us is actually Charlie. Siya talaga yung may aral, because I think that's part of his profession as a lawyer, that he has to know everything about the case before he goes into the case. Yung pinaka-least studied siguro sa lahat, ako. Kasi ako lang naman follow up, may mga ganyan kagad. Diba? So
why am I not surprised?
Ako yung may Wikipedia sa harapan during the show.
But you know, that is the secret of your chemistry. The chemistry, you can have the periodic table and everything, do all the combinations there, but you just don't know. There's something that just happens, and rare combination that the three of you just click. It starts with the fact that you're all fans. You're all fans at heart, which Sid said earlier. Jay, you wanted to ask the guys.
Yeah, can I follow up yung part ng chemistry? How did you build that chemistry? I mean, sige, anong roles ninyo? Like sabi ni Noel, like Charlie is the most diligent, obviously, no? Noel probably would be the one to inject follow-up questions, etc. Paano nyo in-establish yung kanya-kanyang rules ninyo?
I think it comes sa personalities rin namin kahit papaano, no? Nandun talaga. And then the host nga kasi really a lot of times kasi I take the lead because I invite the guest, and then we just go from there, no? You feed it to Sid, you feed it to Noel afterwards, and then it just happens. But it took some time because I saw a comment earlier. That said, "Pare, nung umpisa, sabay-sabay kayo nagtatanong." Yan ang sinabi nung isang I can't find it anymore now on my feed, but one of the comments earlier said that, and it's true because we really had no idea how this online thing works ngayon. Kahit pa paano ngayon nagkatinginan na kami. May tinginan na kami, may konti senyasa na kami but it still happens, ha? It still happens.
Senyasa na maganda kasi we're talking about senyasa, no? Pag magtanong ako kasi nagsasapawan nga kami, nag-usap-usap kami. O pag magtanong ako, kanya-kanya kayong kodigo, si Charlie si ganon. Yan, si Charlie, si gano'n. Si Sid, tatapikin yung earphones niya. Hindi ko alam kung saan galing yun. Tatapikin ko naman, ako lalapit sa camera pag may tanong ako.
When we do something like this in the studio, when the lit camera is not on you, you can easily make a signal to the other person. Diba? Even when we cover games, may senyasan. But here on video conference platforms, kita lahat tayo on what we do. And I guess you've gotten that with them. That has it happened in a show wherein I'm just gonna watch, I'm not gonna ask a question. This is so good. This is so good. I'm gonna let the guys just go on. I'm learning something here. I'm just going to step back. Anybody?
Sid, answer that.
I think we're all gonna say the same. Pido, Arencio.
Why?
He did a monologue. Start to open the show, he talked non-stop for 20-25 minutes. Kaming tatlo we were just like, diretso siya.
Tapos tama yung timeline niya. So okay.
Alam na niya kasi napapanood niya yung show. So he knew it eh. So, naman niya. The least number of
and there's a whole generation of kids and basketball followers who never saw the Alan Kaydik Pido Arencio rivalry. I was not from UST or UE, but I would go to those games along with my cousins who were friends of Boise Samar, ito yung aming Bisayan connection, and Boise would give us tickets to those games, and I knew Arencio and Kaydik. So there's that. So Pido, don't get him started. May mga ilang guests niyo yung gano'n. Don't get them started. Pido is one. Sino pa?
Sino ba
Turo Valenzuela was another one. Sino pa?
Turo. Sino ba yung gano'n?
Coach Tim actually was also a talker.
Wala yun. Sakit na yun.
One question, 10-minute answer.
Norman Black.
Alam niya yun.
Yeah,
Norman Black also. Diretso siya. And actually,
okay. Just as a question before I think we're hitting our first hour. Were there any tight spots? Were there spots that, this is getting uncomfortable. I don't think this is working. Let's shift it to another question. I hope, boy, why did we ask that question kind of situation? Charlie, you look like you're ready to answer.
More of there were a couple of guests who really just aren't chatty. They're not. That's not their personality talaga. So you really had to try to draw information mula sa kanila. And then plus internet. I remember, like, for example, the episode with Dante Gonzalgo. Bad internet, and then he's just really a very quiet fellow. No, he'll answer you. Tama. Oh, meron bang nangyaring ganito? Meron naman.
Diba? Magaling yun player na yun.
Magaling yun, di ba? Describe mo yung matchup sa ganun. Oh, naku, lakas nun.
Parang ganun din, JB Yango, we also had nag-struggle din tayo ng konti with JB Yango.
So that's a struggle when the guest isn't too chatty and you really need to draw out. But then I guess that also tests your capability nga. I mean, ako sanay naman ako mag-cross-examine ng tao. So kahit paano, you try to draw that out. Pero it's tough in this setting because you want to ask a question and you want the guest to tell you the whole story. But it just doesn't work out that way. But that's the one that stands out for me na ganun talaga. Very soft-spoken. Sa pagka-rough player niya and talagang take charge guy ni Dante Gonzalgo, he was very shy and it showed in his episode.
Ako naman, the opposite naman yun ng I felt during the Dennis Steele episode. That was the opposite naman. The guy was flying off the handle naman, si Dennis Steele. I mean, he's a very nice character. I mean, he has a lot of stories to tell, pero talagang yun ang medyo kung crossover ni Tim Hardaway sa loob. Ito Allen Iverson ang crossover nito. Medyo sa labas nang gagaling yung
buti walang MTRCB dito sa.
Isa pa yun. Medyo wild yung kay Dennis Steele, but that was also enjoyable.
But was there a question that it was already thrown? Then it was there. You got the sense that why did we ask that question? Or the guest is obviously may player talaga na hindi talaga makwento eh. Di ba? Alam naman natin yung kahit naman sa present generation, meron talaga yung one game at a time. Play defense lang kami. Di ba? Alam mo di ba? If you watched Bull Durham, tinuruan ni Kevin Costner yung isa, paano sagutin yung media. But was there any episode that you recall na the guest is squirming here and this is uncomfortable, but here we are? Do you remember? Or would you rather forget those episodes?
Ako pinaka-naaalala ko lang talaga, they squirm when you ask them if they like Nora or Vilma. Some of them don't want to. We ask that question all the time. Yeah. This is serious. Maraming sa guests natin, since I started asking that question of Nora and Vilma, they'll answer. Jericho Diniero or Alvin Patrimonio. Alvin. Yung ang bilis sila sumagot pag Nora, Vilma. Mahirap yan. Magagalit ko ng Nora pag Vilma. Doon sila nagsusquirm pa, di ba, sa Nora and Vilma. So that just comes to mind kasi I noticed that with a couple of our guests talaga. And 3 of them actually said, ayaw mamili kasi baka magalit daw yung Nora niyan or Vilma niyan.
Charlie actually keeps score of the Nora Vilma thing.
Saan galing yung tanong na yan? Where did that come from?
Wala
Naisip ko lang.
Si Noel yata yan eh. Noel yata yan.
Naisip ko lang kasi when Charlie came out with this great segment called X's or O's, ganda eh. Ganda yung minsan mahirap talaga. Kunyari, Ricardo Brown or Alan Kaidig. Parang ako napapaisip din ako. Hirap nun mga ganon. So I just throw in a curveball there na sinasabi ko, sige, Nora o Vilma. Parang ano lang, just to, because we are a show of the 70s and 80s. Diba? Pwede ka mamiling ganon. I didn't know na magiging ganon ng epekto sa guest na, uy, teka muna. Diba? Yung di ba talagang sino ba yung kinabahan talaga para sagutin doon? There was one who really said, teka, I have to think about it. Wag na lang. Baka magalit sa akin. Talagang ganon.
Si Sir Hill yata eh.
Hill Cortez. Hill Cortez.
Yes. There's three have already nag-tie. Si Hill Cortez, si Alex Marquez, and si Tim Coloso yata. Did not choose Nora or Vilma. Ano sila?
Okay.
Neutral.
Okay. We'll take a halftime break here, and we take our first hour. What we want to do after the first hour, after this short break, is that Jay Mercado here is going to lead us in the X's and O's version for today. But just as a reminder to everybody that AEOB isn't the only program that's available, and we have the podcast, of course, of Who the Heck Are We? It's a great discussion format. We're in several issues, several topics about sports that you probably didn't expect to be discussed are discussed by this great podcast. And we have hand time with Denise Dinsay, and of course Denise is an experienced courtside reporter and gets to know the personalities that she interviews as well. And don't forget to drop by the Globally Ballin website, and everything that is significant about sports is there. It also has a YouTube channel. Visit and subscribe, as they say, and that's the call to action there. It's something that you can, of course, visit as well. In case you're unable to follow the program visually, you can hear AEOB or An Eternity of Basketball in audio form on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you want to connect again to Globally Ballin, you have the Linktree connection, of course, which you see on your pictures. In case you're joining us just now, we're celebrating the first-year anniversary of An Eternity. Hello, Sid. You're there, but you're not there.
Half-time nawawala.
Bathroom break.
Yeah, must be. So here he's back. So as I was saying, those of you who are tuning in just now or dropping by just now, we're celebrating the first year of who would have thought that this program would last a year, but because of the niche that it created, it's still here and looks forward to so much more. At this point, we've asked Jay Mercado, one of the consultants and advisors of the show. I have now dubbed him as the official Miron of this show. To lead us in the game of X's and O's, which we will expand on as these guys try to answer these questions. Jay, take over, please.
Yeah, okay, all right. This is a different variant of X or O. So instead of asking you to choose two players, you have to identify the guest or the personality which best fit the answer to the question. So I'll be asking you guys to prepare a sheet of paper or a whiteboard with a marker. And after the question has been raised, you have to write down your answer. Hindi pwedeng tie to, ha? Yun yan. Hindi porket yung guest pinapayagan yung mag-tie. Eto, pwede kayo mag-tie, ha? Hindi pwede ganon. Okay. First question. From among your 75 guests, who gave the funniest quote?
Funniest quote?
The funniest quote.
Funniest guest, meron.
Hindi, quote.
Quote.
Let's see let's see kung paano.
For a change, sunod naman kayo.
Oo.
Okay, I don't remember the quote.
Story? Pwede bang funniest story na lang?
Pwede natin. Funniest story. Sige, okay lang.
Iba na lang pala.
But you have to share to us ano yung story, ha?
Oh, shit. Sindali. Napashit tuloy.
Inulit mo pa.
Thank you for watching, Willie Mercado Cheng. Thank you for joining us. Willie, pinilit lang akong sumalo rito.
Sir Sev, may request si Arnel Del Rio sa ending.
Okay,
you have to say it the Joe Cantado way.
Okay, I will.
Alright, okay.
Nakalimutan ko nga nung Nakalimutan ko nga nung Joe Cantado episode, yung Keep on Punching.
Yeah.
Yun ang nakalimutan ko na. O sige, ayun, Charlie, may
Alright,
sagot si Charlie. Vic Sanchez.
Vic Sanchez. Sid?
Kailangan ba sa ikwento ko? Hindi, sila muna, okay.
Hindi, sige, let's see your answers
Hindi
mula.
ata
Ano sinulat ni Sid?
Ako hindi ata kita.
Kita.
Wow.
Onchi.
Vicky Relosa says, congratulations to the Tito Vic and Joey of Eternity of Basketball.
Sabi nga niya, isang
Kita niya ba?
buong bansa, Eat Bulaga.
Onchi de la Cruz, tama
Onchi
ba?
de la Cruz, yeah. Onchi de la
Okay.
Cruz. Had the funniest
Noel,
story.
ikaw.
Web.
Ready, Web. Sige, Charlie.
Yung kwento about yung nagko-contract negotiation sila sa chicks to chicks.
No, isa Charlie muna. Sige.
Ay, sorry.
No, yung sa akin kasi, I guess I have the same thing with Sid, no? Onchi yung kanya, Vic yung akin. Kasi, di ba yung personality ng mga yan, mga goons, mga enforcers talaga. But they're very, it's a light conversation with them actually, very frank and nice. Yung kay Vic Sanchez, nakakatawa lang the way he said it na, pag hindi, kailangan mong banatan yung kalaban mo eh. Kasi pag hindi mo binanatan yung kalaban mo, di ba, mawawala ng respeto sa'yo. And he said it as a matter of fact, in such a matter of fact way. Natawa talaga ako sa delivery niya. And because, he's a big brute nga, di ba? Yun nga yung title ng isang article about him, di ba? Tandwise lovable brute or something like that. And for him to be like that, na parang soft-spoken and all of that, and the way he said it, kailangan mo banatan niya. Pag hindi mo binanatan. Ganyan. And because,
Pabulong pa.
we have to answer
By the way,
right away.
Charlie, total naman Eternity of Basketball, lahat ng interview niya kasama si Romy Quintanar nung araw, kahit nung kay June Bernardino, ang ending lagi ni Vic, nais kong magpasalamat sa kumpare kong Joe Cantada dahil dinala ko yan. Tapos may puto lagi si Joe Cantada.
Nakwento nga niya yan.
Diba? Yung puto. So yun yung nakakatawa para sa akin. Vic Sanchez, top of my head kasi we have to answer right away right now. So,
Okay. Sige. Jay.
Ako?
Sige.
Ako na ba? Si Sid.
Sid, Onchi.
Well, Onchi kasi first of all, siya yung sasagutin ko kung sino yung pinaka-surprising na guest. I didn't think na ganong sense of humor ni Onchi de la Cruz. He's such a funny guy pala pag nakausap mo siya. No? And we learned that during the interview. And yung funny story niya was about his teammate, Romy Mamaril. Nagulat siya, sabi niya, pero alam niya si Mama, tahimik lang yan, pero grabe pala yan. Sabi niya, nakita ko yan, nagte-take out ako sa isang restaurant, nandun din siya, may kasamang binibining Pilipinas. yung pagkwento niya.
Matinik yan.
Matinik yan. Di ba? Parang nang-chismis siya eh. Di ba? Parang hindi mo akalain si Onchi de la Cruz, di ba? Mr. Enforcer. Magkakwento pala siya na gano'n. Saka yun na nga, nakakagulat pala yun. Si Romy Mamaril, hindi natin akalain na matinig sa mga beauty queen.
And he's not the only guest who said that. May ibang guest na nagsabi nun.
Well, sa akin, it was the Freddie Webb kwento, not really about basketball, pero yung kwento niya tungkol sa chicks to chicks. Right, yung relationship nila dun sa on set nila. Nung nagko-contract negotiation daw sila nila Nova Villa na may binibigay na kontrata na okay na, tapos parang sabi ni Freddie, pwede ba namin pag-isipan to? Tinatadyakan na daw siya ni Nova Villa. Tanggapin mo na yan. Pagdating daw sa coach, pinagmumura daw siya ni Nova Villa. Ba't hindi mo tinanggap yan? Okay na yung mga ganun. Siyempre, Freddie Webb, sandali. Parang eksena tuloy lang chicks to chicks yung nangyari sa coach. That I remember that very, natawa talaga ako doon.
Nakakatawa talaga yun.
Second question. Next.
Yes.
Okay.
Which guest cursed the most in one episode?
Madali yun.
Madali lang yun.
Dalawang pang pipilian ko dyan eh.
Ako, isa lang.
Isa lang.
Ako, more. Mas medyo controlled yung isa eh.
Charlie wrote...
talaga?
Ako, ito talaga. Mas marami ako narinig.
Noel wrote Philip Cesar and Sid wrote... Diyos ko. Wala ka bang pen?
Yung ilaw mo masyadong bright.
Sorry.
Onchi.
Cesar.
Cesar kayo dalawa.
Philip Cesar.
Onchi na alala ko.
Ano kasi? Pagkausap mo si Coach Philip kasi, di ba ganun siya magkwento eh? Di ba?
Exactly. Same sila.
Alam mo, pare, kung ako naman ang tatanungin pare kasi kung di ba?
Actually, parang second pa nga si Coach Turo before Onchi eh. Para si Coach Turo din ang dami.
Diba? Actually, itong tayong lima, wala tayo sa isang public format. Kanina pa.
Oh.
Hindi, tsaka at one point kasi in that show kay Coach Turo, he forgot he was on air. Parang kasi kwentuhan na lang siya.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, those of you who are watching, alam mo kasi, and all guys have had experience appearing on television, you seem to, you turn it on diba? You switch it off or turn it on when you're about to appear and you're not gonna do certain things. But these players that you mentioned, pakialam nila.
Yeah, mismo. Exactly.
And I'm not surprised with their answers, Jay. Okay, continue.
Sige. Ito. Hats off sa inyo to, ha, kung sakali. What was the most revealing information that came out from all your interviews?
Uy, ganda.
Wow.
Di mo yung kunot ng noo ng tatlo, Jay, oh. Yeah.
By the way, hindi alam po nung tatlong to, di mga tanong. So,
wala ho, hindi ho pinaganda. Si Jay lang ang gumawa ho nito.
Very natural po yung mga reaction nila.
Ano nga ba? Ang dami Dali
Ang dami Andali
Wala, we have to top of head kailangan tayo
Alston Morales. I hope next year may mga awards na. Okay, this is a great suggestion.
That's nice.
Yes. Something like that. Okay,
mahaba masyado yung answer ko. Masyado. I'll just say it na lang.
Sige. Okay lang. I'll start with you, Sid. Sige, sagot mo.
When Atoy Co revealed that he and Freddy Hobalde actually wanted to join Toyota.
Yeah.
Sinabi niya yun.
77
They approached Dante Silverio kasi their contracts had expired and they wanted to see if Toyota was interested. Pero hindi daw.
Ano yun? Mika days pa yan? Hindi pa?
No.
PBA. At the end of the 77 season, their contracts had expired and they heard na mas maganda raw ang sweldo ng Toyota, mas maganda yung perks. So they made themselves available daw. They went to Toyota headquarters and they actually met. Pero hindi natuloy Pero ang suspicion ni Atoy Co was the PBA wouldn't allow it kasi masisira raw yung rivalry.
Na-validate ni Freddy yan nung lumabas sa show.
Yes.
I didn't know that Atoy and Freddy ang muntik mag-Toyota. Ang daming Crispanatis magagalit.
Oo, totoo.
Noel, ikaw.
Well, of course, because I was always a Mon Fernandez fan, so I've always wanted to know about what happened after 1983 and then what happened kung paano nila na-patch up in 1989 leading up to the Asian Games noong 1990. So, yun yung pinaka-inaabangan kong part talaga of that Mon Fernandez interview. Of course, the whole time kinikilig kami na Mon Fernandez yung ini-interview namin. But at the same time nga, yung what happened between Jaworski and Fernandez, what really triggered it. I think Sid was the one who was brave enough to actually ask the question. Di ba? Kasi lahat, patapos na yung show, teka, hindi pa natin natatanong, ano ba to? Tapos Sid, parang sabi Sid, so what really happened? Parang ganun lang kasi
ano sagot, if you recall?
Sid, tapos talaga, it was the media, it was an interview with the reporter. Nabanggit pa niya si ni reporter
Nabanggit niya.
Nabanggit niya.
Yata si
parang sa Troy, luwar ka, di ba? Parang gano'n Basta isang reporter na sinabi na that misconstrued after that. It was really because he was misquoted as saying that Jaworski should retire already. Parang gano'n yung dating. Jaworski should retire. Lumabas sa media na sinasabi ni Fernandez na gano'n, which was not the way he explained it to the reporter. Jaworski ready, tapos parang from that time on, yun na parang, gusto mo pala mag-retire. Gumano na talaga. Doon nagsimula yun. So something that simple lang. Started an entire different rivalry going to Ginebra and Tanduay. And of course, patched up by Baby Dalupan in 1989. Pero that was what I was waiting for that day. And I remember pa very clearly yung episode na yun. Kasi yung araw, guys, naalala nyo, napaso ako habang niluluto ako. Naalala mo yun? My foot was completely, puro mantika yung paa ko nakalublob sa balde na puro yelo. Tapos my left hand, I wasn't showing my left hand the whole time kasi puro burn marks talaga. So, and we still had to do the show because that's still Mon Fernandez. Sabi nga, Charlie, papalit ka kay Jay. Wag, Mon Fernandez to. Kailangan dyan na. So yun, I just remember.
Charlie has something written.
Sa akin, this might be dahil recent lang to. Dalawa kasi yung nagsa-stand out. Dexter Shouse And Andy Thompson, no? Kasi,
Okay.
well, the top of mind nga. Yung kay Dexter Shouse, I like the fact that he was finally able to clear the air about his first departure from the Philippines. So yung sumabog yung bomba sa may Manila Garden, it traumatized him. And in fact, he even told us he had PTSD afterwards, no? When he was watching Good Morning Vietnam, the bomb exploded. He had to run out of the theater because he remembered the bomb exploding in Manila Garden, which is what prompted him to leave Shell, di ba?
Charlie, ano exactly yung ano yung syndrome na yun?
PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Okay.
Diba? He had that. So when he heard the bomb explode in the movie, it felt like he sounded like the bomb in Manila Garden. He had to run out. So that's one. And then the other one was Andy Thompson, the short one hour episode we had with Andy Thompson, no, former import of Tanduay and producer of Last Dance. When he really said it straight out. Didn't you know that there was game fixing during my time? Yan ang sinabi niya. And we were like, the three of us were like, okay, let's talk about Michael Jordan. Let's talk about Michael Jordan because we really didn't know, collectively how to follow, how to pursue that topic, and we were not sure if we wanted to pursue that topic.
And some of the imports actually alluded to it already. Even maraming ganun sa imports, and we just try to sway it away because alam ko we can open up a whole new can of worms, but are we ready to deal with the can of worms? I don't think so.
That's right. So that's one thing. He asked us the question, didn't you know that there was game fixing? Yeah. And then so yung dalawang yun nagsa-stand out sa akin yung dalawa.
Okay. Jay?
Fourth question. O sige. You've always given credit to your guests and to your followers, no, for the success of your show. No, it was never about you. That basically what has always been your motto or whatever, no. So ang question ko ngayon dito is this, no. Let's go to your followers. Which name stands out the most among your followers?
Wow, sige. I'm pretty sure.
Anong I'm pretty sure, Charlie?
I'm pretty sure pareho yung lalagay namin, pero let's see.
Among your pinaka-recall mo na among your followers, whose name can you recall the most?
Sabay-sabay ba tayo?
Sige nga, tingnan natin.
Sabay-sabay.
Sige na, sabay.
Sige. Yeah. That's also Tony Valenzuela.
Tony.
And there are many, with no disrespect to the others.
Yeah.
Ang dami talaga. There's a lot of them, but Tony Valenzuela always makes a comment on the Facebook post when we announce sino yung guest namin. He'll put a bit of trivia about that person, and then during the episodes when we need to fill in certain details that we're not sure of, he's one of the first ones who will reply.
But when we have a guest na taga-Alaska, si Napoleon, I forget his name.
Federer.
Yeah, siya naman yung ano namin.
Pag-Alaska, siya talaga.
Arnel Del Rio also comes to mind, also among our guests.
You know what, guys? I've always believed in life that the fan or the hobbyist is better than the expert. Halimbawa, I've talked to professional photographers, and they don't want to compete with hobbyists. Because yung hobbyist, walang pakialam sa gastos, they'll buy the lens. And a fan, by the same token, knows probably more than all of us. You can see that in our threads, no? They will correct us. Sa dami na information that we are managing, and we have so many Tony Valenzuelas like that. And Charlie?
And we reached that point already na we're so sure that our guests are learned about the topic, about the players that we have, the guests, that we throw the question to them sometimes, di ba? Kailan kunyari may photo, may muse. Sino nga yung muse na yan? Baka kilala nyo. And in a few seconds, they're gonna put who the muse was, which year it was, the photo was taken in which year. So we appreciate, the shout out. We love you. Yung mga followers talaga namin. You're the best. You're the best, you guys.
Next.
Sige. Sige naman. Pagbigyan naman. Kayo naman. It's about you guys naman, ha? Sige. Sino sa inyo, which among the three of you, had the most number of boo-boos? On-cam boo-boos.
Boo-boos. Sige.
On-cam, ha? On-cam.
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 On air na. Wala namang camera ko eh.
Sorry, on air. Yeah.
On air, di ba?
Boo-boo. Depends your definition of boo-boo.
Sige, sabay-sabay, ha?
Pero sige.
Sige, explain na lang mamaya. Sige, taas. Sabay-sabay. Go.
1, 2.
Noel. Unanimous naman pala. Sige, Sid, paki-explain yung sagot mo.
Noel, minsan he gets his dates mixed up.
Yeah.
You know,
Dates naman talaga.
his teams mixed up. Yeah, yung teammates. So, magtatanong siya sa player na, oh, do you remember that time when you were still there with this team and you were teammates with and sasabihin na, no, I didn't play for that team.
Oy, pero yung Martires, Paner, nagkaabot pa nung 80s.
Sila na may problema doon.
Sila na may problema doon.
You know, this is shocking to hear. Ito si Noel, kung makakorek ito sa social media, no? Kung makakorek ito, ng mga dates at saka, ang lakas ng loob pala nito. Ito pala sa AEOB, marami palang sabit ito rito.
Wala akong access sa internet.
I've known Noel for roughly 27 years.
I think
he's just being Noel. That's Noel being Noel.
Ayun. May isa pa po sa bubo.
Nakukuha lang yan sa
Jimmy Mariano. Yung kay
ano
Jimmy
itong Jimmy
Mariano
Mariano na binubuo natin ng mga production natin?
The biggest bubo of all.
The Jimmy Mariano thing was the best of Noel.
Should we talk about it here? Parang ayoko yata pag-usapan.
Wag na. Off the air na lang.
Hindi pwede. Off the air na lang yun.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have no idea what it is. So anyway.
Cannot be.
But there's one talaga I think that stands out to me was the Rene Canent episode.
Yeah.
And to this day, these guys talaga are about...
Cannot. There's something...
Talaga, basta ganun karami, Sev J. Ganun karami, and I admit to it
talaga.
talaga.
Naman, pero,
na-accumulate talaga.
Or minsan nasabi na ng guest previously, tas tatanungin niya uli
ano pa yun, ha? If I can imagine, todo modulation pa yun.
Yeah. Minsan slang pa.
Sabi
mo ba naman kay Andy
Amerikano kausap, yung kanyang Noel Zarate na American accent. Kasi ang ginajustify niya na maiintindihan siya na Amerikano pag nilagay niya yung accent na yun.
Hindi, sinabi kasi niya kay Andy Thompson, producer ng The Last Dance, what's that bootleg version? I have a bootleg version.
I watched the pirated version of that before
pirated version.
Parang proud pa siya
Sige. Jay, how many more questions you
have? I have 2 more na lang.
Sige, let's because we have some great photos from the year. Let's ask those 2 questions.
Sige. Sino sa inyong tatlo gave the most difficult questions?
Difficult questions.
Who do you think among the 3 of you gave the most difficult questions?
Difficult kasi na hindi nila nasagot or difficult kasi kailangan magalukay?
Difficult to ask? I mean, tough question?
Tough questions. Difficult to answer, in other words, for the player. Not because they don't recall it, but because it was a revealing question, in other words, that needs a revealing answer.
Revealing or awkward, di ba?
An awkward question, yeah, gano'n. That needs a very probably would require a revealing answer. Charlie, may sagot na
pero
alam mo may success ang programa pag maraming sikreto yung mga ayaw i-reveal. May level of success na yung programa
Okay.
Charlie,
ikaw na.
Really?
Ako lahat. All.
Charlie, all.
Yeah.
Kasi we've all had our tough questions na tinanong Hindi ko sa akin, no one among us 3 yung nangibabaw na
yung sa akin,
si Noel, mahilig sa di ba? Ano ba nangyari doon?
Yeah. Yun lang naman yung akin.
Pero you're saying in the course of an episode, somebody will ask a typical Noel question, a typical Charlie question, a typical Sid question. That's gonna happen, When you hear that's Noel talking, you know it, di ba?
Saka nagkakamuyan na kami lang. I said Charlie because Charlie structures it in such a way na parang interrogation na kailangan mong... And Charlie structures it very clearly na you have to answer it this way. Di ba? Hindi ka pwedeng paligoy-ligoy. Ako, follow up lang. Bakit? Yun lang naman yung akin Ba't ganun? Ano nangyari doon? Hindi, talaga. Yun lang yung that's why siguro.
Charlie yan. Talaga? Ganun talaga?
Ganun. Napaulit ko talaga para everybody hears it. Can you say that again? Gaganyan, especially pag-import. Say that again because ganun.
Yeah. Tito Coloso, thanks for dropping by. And Jay's final question for the day.
Yeah. Describe AEOB in 1 word.
Wow. Naman in 1 word.
Ay, nako. Hindi, wala yan. Tama yan, 1 word. Kasi ang daldal yung 3
Oo nga.
Ako hindi ko kaya yan.
1 word. Wow.
Knowing them naman, i-explain rin naman nila yan
Diba?
No, I can't.
Ako top of head lang right away. Basta
Sige,
ano
sige.
yung
Charlie,
lumabas.
mauna ka na.
Ano lumabas? Sige. Beautiful.
Sige.
It's beautiful.
Nostalgia.
Nostalgic.
Wala wala akong maisip. Ito na lang.
One
Sabi
word,
ni Charlie,
hindi one
top of head.
sentence.
Ayan.
Innovative. Okay.
Because I just to explain why. Because
Di na.
everybody... Oh, sige.
Understood na yun.
And then, why?
Hindi, because there are a lot of shows that started saying, oo nga, no? Tayo rin. There are a lot of shows that did that. I won't say the shows na, but there are a lot of shows that after we started this sort of in the 10th episode na kami, and then, uy, kaya rin natin gawin yan. So I think it was a trailblazer. I think trailblazer should have been the word that I used. Ano? It was the start of something na ginagaya na lahat. And to this day, a lot of people are still doing it.
Yeah, but yun na nga, it carved its own niche, both intentionally and unintentionally, diba? Because tama si Sid there, because there's a chord that had not been played for a very long time, being a Toyota or a Crispa fan or a Great Taste fan, and also Sid, diba? May mga Shell fans. May mga Shell, di ba Jay? May mga Shell, may mga Magsanok Paras lovers.
De La Rosa. Yeah.
De La Rosa. Can I ask our production staff to bring up the pictures, and we'll do some nostalgia just to complete today's anniversary.
I'm nervous about this part.
I have no idea.
Nagtatawanan kayo kanina before we went on air, and I don't know why.
Why we're doing this? I just learned that Noel and Charlie were part of a band or a combo nung araw. We'll get them to talk about that later. Just guys, can you just flash the pictures?
Yeah.
Okay. When was this?
This is kailan to Sid? 2014 ba to?
2014 sa Yahoo sa BGC.
This is the only picture of the three of us together.
Yeah, because you had all worked for Yahoo. Sid was your boss.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, this is in Aracama in Bonifacio.
We had this event for the clients of Yahoo. Tapos para may open mic. And it was actually a sales, an event by sales, pero the editorial team was also invited. Sabi magdala rin ng guests. So I invited the writers, silang dalawa lang yung sumipot. So,
a lot of booze, a lot of food.
Alam ko kumanta kayong dalawa dyan eh.
Ako, alam ko kumanta. Charlie kumanta.
Ako hindi yata ako kumanta dyan.
Yeah,
ako kumanta.
Noel sang a song.
Doon ako kumanta sa natin, benefit night.
My Sacrifice.
Top 44.
Wow.
Going back, this is the only picture of the three of us together. Lahat na iba, may kasama tayong iba.
Yeah, we're the Three Musketeers, sabi ni MJ Leroy. Wow, we're revealing a lot here. We really didn't need to know what song you sang that night. But okay, the public domain already.
Kilala pa niya yung boses,
Next picture, please. Okay. Is that Carlo Pamintuan I see?
Yes. And Bob Guerrero.
And that's Bob Guerrero. And in the middle, is that Charlie? And that's And this was Yahoo, no?
Yeah, this is another Yahoo.
Christmas party to eh.
Christmas.
This is in that billiards place in Metro Walk.
Nawala na. Naging PBA Cafe. Naging PBA Cafe. Tapos hindi na rin PBA Cafe.
Christmas Christmas get together.
Remember, you guys are old enough to remember that to go through high school and college, you had to know how to play this game.
Oh, naman.
Sa Ateneo, we had the Pink House,
Pink House, sir.
UP, UP would know that.
Alumni Center, yung tabing yung mesa.
Dalawang piso lang isang laro.
The guys from Taft Avenue, from LaSalle, and others from UP Manila would know those little side streets na may mga bilyaran.
Noel, hindi ka ba nag-Pink House? Sa Katipunan?
Eventually, nung matanda na ako, pero earlier, pag hindi na ako papasok, dyan na sa Alumni Center.
Alumni Center sa UP,
Yung Pink House, kahit nasira na yung lamesa talaga, kahit wasak-wasak na yung lamesa, laro, basta may libre yung lamesa. Sige.
Naalala ko yung binost nito, may nag-comment, bakit yung hawak ko hindi cute.
Tiririt hawak ko.
Bridge yan, di ba?
Can we just, that's the formal name, but in Filipino, pakigawa nga ng tiririt, di ba?
Tiririt.
Just flash the pictures. We'll sail through each one of them. And this is...
I remember this day.
Yeah, I'll explain this. This is the day na our House of Representatives did not approve the renewal of the franchise of ABS-CBN. And because we are one in spirit with our ABS-CBN brothers, we wore the colors of ABS-CBN for that day. Blue, green, and red.
Yeah, blue, green, and red.
And Sid specifically asked to wear green.
Because he has a lot of green shirts. He's a Celtic.
Yes, of course.
Celtics.
Yeah, that's a Celtic shirt. So yun, yeah, symbolic na yan. Gesture namin.
We did give our messages.
Oh,
also,
shucks. What is that?
Well, ako na magkikwento rin ulit. Unbeknownst to many, Noel Zarate is a musician. He's a gifted drummer and keyboard player, and he's playing his keyboards right there.
Mark Zambrano, one of our colleagues, says Noel Zarate is a hustler.
Kami ni Mark kasi
as if you don't know that.
Wala kami ginawa ni Mark dati sa Cebu kung hindi magbilyar na 10 oras.
Wala nang masa-hustler kay Mark Zambrano.
Yes, I agree.
Diba? You can actually hear Mark Zambrano talking, oh, pare, hindi naman totoo yun, no?
Ganun si Mark Zambrano. Oh my God.
Diba? You can actually hear him talking right now, even if he's not here.
We had a few episodes before we begin, before we go on the air. Magtutugtog muna si Noel ng music niya.
And this is the early stages of our seminars that we used to run, no?
This was in 2002. This was before I actually met Sid, because Sid was our student in 2004. Doon ko actually
2004.
Ako 03.
Yeah,
03 ako.
Si Charlie was in 3. Tapos the ironic part is they both attended the workshop that was only held twice in that building sa Park Chateau. Silang dalawang batch lang ang nag-attend doon, and yun nga, they came from that building.
That was small and intimate, you know? That was it was very small and intimate. Compared to sa Development Academy, which is really classroom style.
Yun nga, yung times na hindi available ang DAP, in times, ito DAP ito sa DAP ito ginawa. Nung hindi available yung DAP, doon namin ginagawa sa Park Chateau. So tama-tama, batch ni Charlie, Park Chateau, batch ni Sid sa Park Chateau din.
But ang matchmate ko na was si Magumar John.
Richard.
Yeah, I was about to get to that. Si Richard Del Rosario, yung isa pang famous person that I remember katabi ko siya palagi.
Ba't puro akin to? Ano ba yan?
Ikaw yung pinaka-character kasi.
And then this was the time I was on my way to ride a red-eye flight from Macau to the Philippines, one of the many ABL coverage.
Well, wala akong masabi dyan eh.
Gosh.
Ito na. Fine.
Payat.
Tinan mo si Noel, Tinan mo yung yakap niya dun sa isa.
Oh my
That's
gosh.
Noel on the left, ladies and gentlemen.
This was when I was in college. Siguro unbeknownst to many, I was actually 126 pounds as a freshman sa UP. So that's what I looked like as a freshman. This was one of our plays that UP College of Music. Actually, sikat na lahat ng musicians na yan dyan. Yung girl dito, naging friend, close friend ni Samboy Lim, si Risa Regalado. So that's probably the connection to basketball.
Ay, itura mo dyan, Noel. Cheekbone.
Yan, ano?
Ito, pruweba.
Neighbors natin sa College of Mass Comm Music, di ba? Ito, sino to?
Noel and I never bumped into each other nun. Mascom ako.
Wala. Kahit sa intrams, hindi kami
Kasi pag kumanta na yung music, ayaw na namin lumabas eh.
Ito, ano lang to? Ito, Sid, ikaw magkwento nito.
This was for Yahoo benefit concert, Yahoo Sports, for yung SAF 44, February 15, for the families of the 44 members of the special action force of the PNP, and it was held sa restaurant ni Paolo Bidiones.
Punyeta.
Pronunciation yan.
Hey guys, I am beginning to notice that the only times that you were actually together was pre-pandemic in Yahoo, and now you don't have pictures together because hiwalay tayo, no?
Yeah.
The pictures of this show are really those frames of the video conference format. Yun talaga.
Yeah.
Okay, next picture, please.
Ito, you know what happened the day after? Yeah, you know what happened the day after this, ano? So I had a picture pa nung friends pa kami ni Luke Longley. The next day, di na kami nagpapansinan. Actually, Charlie and I were in that building. Yeah, Charlie and I were in the building when that happened. The following day, after I had my picture with Luke Longley.
let's just remind the audience who may not remember who Luke Longley is. Of course, he played alongside Michael Jordan and those great Chicago Bulls teams. And he was Australian. That's why he was part of the Australian team that got into that major brawl with the Philippines the day after, sabi mo.
The day after this picture was
And
taken.
in my notes, you said that all three of you were in the venue on that day, or was Sid?
No, kami dalawa ni Noel, sir.
Yeah.
I was anchoring the game. I was anchoring the game with Kinito as my analyst, and Noel was the barker for that.
I threw out 15 players that day.
Yeah.
I thought Noel did a marvelous job when he was listening to the referee who was signaling in front of him.
Gutom na ako doon. Gusto ko na umuwi.
Yeah.
40 minutes yung lal.
That was really a really bad day for Philippine sport.
Yeah.
Yep.
Ayan.
Well, wala si Sid, pero si Yumaong kaibigan natin si Barry Pascua ang kasama natin. This is the D-League coverage, no?
Yeah, D-League coverage. So, Attorney Charlie happened to be in the building noon. So, bago kami simula ni Barry, naki-picture lang kami. And every time I see a picture of Barry, I get a little emotional because he was one of the people I worked with the most.
My first partner.
Talaga.
I always told Barry that he should have had a public affairs news program, and it would have been entitled "Tama ba naman yan?" Kasi every time he did the radio coverage, it was always "Tama ba naman yung tawag na?" Because he was a member of the writing press, and the guys from the press, when they became TV analysts, get away with anything kasi ayaw din ng PBA makipagtanggaan din sa kanila, di ba? So the guys from the writing fraternity could get away with, tama ba naman yung tawag na referee na yan? Hindi mo na-miss ka, di ba?
Pero, sir, speaking of that, tama ba naman yan ni Barry Pasco? May coach siyang question kasi may ginawang substitution yung coach. Tama ba naman yan? Ayun, suspended kami ng 1 linggo.
Convinced na kami suspended ni Barry. But I remember this picture also.
Ang lesson kasi talaga, we never second guess the coaches, di ba?
Right. But I remember this picture also, Charlie, because this was the time your name actually, I think, came up as a candidate for commissionership sa PBA. This was the time na, I don't know why you were in the D-League. I had a feeling that maybe you were campaigning. Pero this was the time your name came up also as a candidate for PBA commissioner. But not very many people know that Charlie could have been.
Honestly, I think that will happen in our lifetime. In our lifetime.
I keep telling him that.
I agree.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Bakit 11, Sid? Bakit 11?
Isaiah Thomas
Bonito, Cidad ng Pilipinas.
No, this is my uniform from the UPBL, where I averaged, I think, 1 point per game. Number 11 kasi birthday ko. Falls on the 11th next month.
Okay.
So, nagkataon lang na
we have the birthday episode of Sid.
Ayan, so, yeah.
What is that?
Nako, shirtless Sid.
Talagang hinalungkat, ha? This was my 17th birthday sa UP.
Sexy,
Bahay friend ko.
Sino ba yan? Sino kasama mo dyan?
That's my high school buddy, si Jason Paredes.
Paredes, yeah, of course.
He's also an attorney. Yeah, he's also an attorney. So pareho kaming May ang birthday. So we always celebrated our birthday at the same time.
Looks like a very wild party.
Oh yeah, well, college, college yan. So,
klase ng kuya ko yan sa law school.
Yeah, he mentioned nga yan So, hanapin niyo. Look for me there. Look for me there.
Asan ka, Sydney?
Asan ka, Sydney dyan?
Look for me there.
Oh my God.
Ako yung kumikin that? Hindi ba to?
Yes.
Ay, ko yung kumikin that?
Ito. The other one sa second row from the top, yeah. I'm iniisip ko kung may famous person.
Yung naka-t-shirt.
Yeah.
The girl second row leftmost. The girl second row leftmost is Cecil Gregorio, the sister of Alan and Ryan.
Okay.
They have a sister pala.
Yeah.
Dalawa actually, yung isa namatay.
Yeah, si Tintin namatay ng 2011. Si Cecil, siya yung in between Alan and Ryan sa order ng mga Gregorio siblings.
Sid, nagsusulat ka na ba ng mga panahon na yan? Were you a writer already?
No. Grade 4 I started writing my own fictional write-ups, recaps of Toyota winning over UTEX. I use my father's typewriter. Tapos sinusulat ko
Makinilya.
Yeah.
And you were part of the school. You were part of the school publication or journal.
Grade 6. I reported. Sa paper namin ng grade 6.
Okay.
Anong school ito, Sid?
UPIS.
UPIS.
Saan to?
Okay. This
Araneta to.
Araneta. Chinese Taipei game.
I would like to say, for a public record, this is your usual Sid Ventura pose whenever you see the sports writing for fraternity in an international competition. This is your familiar, it's Sid. When kahit sa Jakarta, nakita ko ito Sid in the Asian Games 2 years ago.
Just to share lang with this picture, there was one time magkasama kami ni Sid, tapos may lumapit sa kanya, sabi, "Uy, Snow, kamusta ka na?"
Hindi lang siya. Hindi lang siyang...
Hindi ko alam paano ko tatawa nun.
Kaya siguro ganyan ang reaction ni Sid.
Hindi lang siya. There's someone else. Na kamukha ko daw. Hindi lang siya.
You're way less controversial.
This is just the anniversary, ladies and gentlemen. We ask your indulgence for these pictures for this time being. And anyway, Ito hilig ni Sid. Pupunta sa Araneta, tatabi sa amin. Para habang ko-cover siya ng game sa sulat, may play-by-play pang kasama. Yes. Yan ang trip niyang gawin.
Yep. Live na nga, may play-by-play pa.
Okay, while we're with Sid, and it seems timely that we can, if you're ready with it, can you just show right now the AEOB intro wherein Sid does it for Ronnie Magsano? Can you take a look at this, please?
Sid. Sana yun? Yan.
Relax ka lang, Sid.
Are we live?
Relax ka lang, Sid. Sabi ko.
We are.
Yeah, we are. We're live.
Teka, hindi ko pa nga nakikita eh.
Nakikita ko na. Ayan. Go, Sid.
We're live now. Okay, sorry. Okay, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat. At welcome to another edition of An Eternity of Basketball. An old line by Joe Cantada, made famous by the late Joe Cantada. I'm Sid Ventura, and as always, I'm joined by Attorney Charlie Cuna and Noel Zarate. Napansin nyo, lahat kami nakamaroon ngayon, and may...
Why are you all laughing? Any reason?
Kasi live na pala.
Because he wanted to... Yeah.
At saka alam namin kabado.
He wanted to bail. Ayaw niya mag-host.
I was reading...
relax ka lang,
I was reading that it's on my cell phone. I was actually reading my intro.
Okay. So let's get back to the pictures as we go into our final half hour. And this is, what's this? Sid, that's Bill Velasco, I think, on the left of your picture.
Andre Soler.
Yeah, Chris Soler. Sa show nila ni Boy at Season before, sa yung hardball on ANC. This was 2009.
Grabe, anong year to? Grabe itsura mo dyan, Sid. Ibang-iba itsura mo. 09, wow.
2008, 2009, mga ganon. We were discussing about the UAAP Final Four, if I'm not mistaken. And that was mga 10 pounds ago, 10, 15 pounds ago.
And you were a TV analyst, no? You and Chris were TV analysts for UAAP, tama?
No, Chris was NCAA. And I was
NCAA, correct.
How long was this, Sid? How long did you do broadcasting?
3 seasons. 09, 2010, 2011. Hindi ko na naabutan si Sir Sev nun eh.
Okay.
Nun sa, ang mga anchors kong kasama nun was Boom, Gonzalez, Eric Tipan, Aaron Atayde. Sila lang yung tatlong anchors na. Yeah. So.
Dream come true ni Sid.
Agad.
Panay pa i-assign sa'yo sa UP game, no? Kaya masakit.
Yeah, ang hirap nga nun eh. Well, ito, 2013, the preseason game between the Rockets and the Pacers, Molafish Arena. So, si Ma'am Tessa ang nag-set up nito, Ma'am Tessa Asmines. And
how thrilling is this, Sid? We all know you as the Celtic fan, no? How thrilling is this for you?
Oh, well, after that game, wala makakausap sa akin sa media room. I was like walking around in a daze, and I remember si Joey Villar of the Philippine Star, parang tawan-tawa siya sa akin. So, pare, mukhang tuliro ka. Kasi ginagano niya ako eh. So, you know, Kevin McHale was one of my dream interviews. Then, gusto ko sana actually makakausap na si Larry Bird eh, pero he decided to hold an interview for a big group. Hindi lang, ayaw niya ng one-on-one. So, I had to settle for Kevin McHale, pero okay na rin yan.
Not too bad.
Not too bad, di ba? I mean, idol ko rin niya kahit pa paano.
At saka mas madaldal naman talaga itong McHale kaysa doon sa Bird.
Yeah. Yan, isa pa yan.
This guy's
hindi talaga makwento yun eh, di ba?
May kwento kasi kay Larry Bird, di ba? 2 araw na sila sa MOA. Sabi, gusto namin kamayan si Larry Bird. Gusto namin. First day ko sa MOA nung time na yon. So, nung nag-uusap-usap kami doon, the middle of the court, naalala ko, kasama ko pa itong mga to. Eto na si Larry Bird, naglalakad na. Lapit ako kay Larry Bird. Sabi, hey, Mr. Bird, I'm Noel. I'm a big fan of yours. Sabi ni Larry Bird, oh, hey, how are you? Kinamayan ako. Tapos dire-diretso. Alala ko ito, si Mike Abasolo, Mark Zambrano, si Ventura, Charlie Cuna, lahat sila nakatingin sa akin parang, and they were giving me the finger. Kasi ilang araw na sila na. Tapos biglang kinamayan ako, kararating ko lang sa MOA nung time na yun.
Ay, alam mo naman yan eh. Alam mo rin eh, kasi tiyempo-tiyempo yan eh. Di ba? Tiyempo-tiyempo rin yan eh. May araw na off sila, may araw okay sila. I'm sure the guys who met Kobe up close and personal also saw both the good days and the bad days with Kobe as well. But I get it from the guys who did Kobe. He rarely had bad days when he was in the Philippines. Let's take a look at Charlie's pictures. We're down to our final 20 minutes.
Oh, wow, Charlie, look at that.
What's this, Charlie?
We used to have a regular basketball group on Tuesday nights at Capitolio, no? Care of Noel. Just Capitolio. This is a group. Most of these guys took the sportscasting seminar as well. Some of them made it different degrees. So Mark Zambrano there, Magumar John if they're on the right. Noel,
Jester Intia is there.
Jester Intia, Martin of Solar.
Martin David.
Martin David Gonzalez there. And there I am at the back giving Noel horns on his head. Diba? So that's fun.
Sabi ko kay Jester, ibalik na niya yung uniforme ni Renren de Tualo sa kanya. Hindi ko naka-welcome.
It goes to show lang that we also played the game. It's not, we're not just talking out of nowhere. I mean, we didn't make it big in college or in the pros or whatever, but we used to play the game and until recently, no. So that's proof positive. I'm not saying we played very well, no, but
and we're all fans of the game. Charlie, sino nga ito?
Ito si Enzo Flojo. To my right and to my left. To my left.
Marami pang buhok si Enzo rito
Okay.
This is about 5 years ago. We hosted the pre-draft show of the PBA draft at the Robinson's
Place, Manila.
So we talked about the prospects and who we thought would the projections for 1 to 12, I think, or something like that.
So that was a loaded draft, ano? Kasi si ano yan eh.
Troy.
Ito na yung Tautua, Troy, Scotty Thompson.
Or as the commissioner said at the time, tawa-tawa. When he announced the first pick, he said, Moala, tawa-tawa.
I've learned also that, like this pre-draft show, this dates you sometimes. It comes to a point, as old as I am, you can't do this anymore because you're not familiar already with the next batch that's coming up.
Yes.
Diba? You're expected. Believe ako kay Dr. J at kay Kinito because they can still be up to date. But me, I'm not that good at that. The next picture, please.
Asian Games 2014, Incheon, South Korea. I was sent to cover together with Dennis Principe and Patricia Bermudez Hizon. So we were the 3 guys on the ground there to report on all the events that happened there. We also covered certain events, so including archery and rowing. And so, Sir Sev, you have experience with that. Those sports we know nothing about, but we're forced to commentate. It was tough, but it's 3 weeks. 3 weeks yan. 22 days kami sa Incheon, South Korea. Crazy. Yeah. Ito, the goat. Yan ang the goat. Huh? Not even sa female athletes, no? Maybe from all the athletes, she's been the most dominant in her sport. Serena Williams, this is during the IPTL tournament held here maybe 4-5 years ago. had the opportunity to
2015, yeah.
interview Serena Williams.
Si Sid, may Maria Sharapova rin.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
Oo
yeah.
nga, oo nga, yeah. But
Yun
yeah, I
ang
mean,
dapat nilabas nyo na photo.
oo nga. Hindi, pero ito naman kasi
Ano?
grabe, it's top of her game at the time. No? She played for the Manila team at the time. Manila Mavericks.
What questions can you ask that they have not answered before? No, when you have these international stars, sometimes I interviewed John McEnroe. I threw him off completely with a question that was a tad too personal. I didn't know any better at that time. He gave me the smirk, as only McEnroe can do. But you know, it's fun. Like Sid, what happened with Kevin McHale? What did you ask him? What do you remember the questions? And I'll ask Charlie what he asked Serena. Sid?
Naku, nag-freeze yata si Sid.
Nag-freeze yata si Sid. Sige, mauna ka na, Charlie.
Yeah. Charlie, ikaw muna.
Well, with Serena, I think because the tournament of the IPTL has special rules, no? They don't follow the standard tennis rules. So that's what we focused on mostly. And she explained to me why she enjoyed this format more, because there's less time in between sets, in between points, and then there's no more deuce. You just go straight into the next point right away and things like that, no? So she was talking about that. And of course, Filipino fans ang pinag-usapan namin. You have to ask that when you're before the home crowd.
Okay. I'd like to leave the remaining time, yeah, you're back.
Yeah.
So can you answer
Yeah,
the question?
I heard the question. I heard the question, yeah. I asked questions about the preseason game, about the Rockets. James Harden was still with the Rockets back then, and Jeremy Lin, sila yung backcourt ng Rockets. And then I snuck in a question about, Larry Bird was also in town, so nag-usap pa sila, are they still in touch, ganyan. So I think I only asked 2 questions because one question kay Kevin McHale, 5 minuto na yan, dire-diretso.
Tama.
So, parang andaling kausapin eh.
Mahilig talaga magsalita eh. Mahilig talaga.
Dapat i-guess natin sa AEOB yan, Sid.
He would have talked more if he had a beer with him. Kasi mahilig uminom.
Okay. I'd like to save the last 15 minutes for some looking down the road kind of questions. And I invite Jay to join me with this one. Can you give us, not necessarily in any order, who would you still like? And we sort of discussed this the other day, but let's say it out loud. Who else would you want to be a guest of AEOB? And I'll limit you to 3 choices for the time being. Let's start with Charlie.
I'd really love to have my favorite point guard, Hector Calma. But unfortunately, and this is, I want the followers to hear this, he already flat out said no. He doesn't want to come on the show. But I'd love to somehow convince him eventually, Hector Calma. I'd love Bogs Adornado. And of course, Ricardo Brown. Those are the 3 siguro. Hector Calma, Boggs, and Brown.
Okay, Sid, you ready?
Well, me, siyempre Benji Paras. Siya lumalabas, no? UP connection. I've been trying to work on that for the last few months. Wala pa rin. And of course, Cap, Alvin Patrimonio, when I'd love to have him on. He hasn't come on yet. And then the final one, probably with Charlie Bogs Adornado. So, mga former PBA MVPs. Sila na lang yan, ano? Mga former MVPs, mga multiple na hindi pa nag-guest, ano? So, yun.
Aside from Junmar, of course, yeah.
Boy, talk of pride in their work. I once was in a dinner with Bogs Adornado, and he asked me point blank what was the record for the PBA for the most number of free throws. I think he still had it at that time. He held it for a while, no?
Yeah.
Si Johnny na yata may hawak eh.
Si Ronnie yata. Bro.
Johnny, okay.
No, but it was so Bogs Adornado. He asked me point blank, di mo alam yun, trabaho mo yun.
But you also know everything.
No, because it was. My conclusion was it was personal. Diba? He was proud of it.
It's the same with Cap. I spoke with Cap the other day, and I was supposed to write the caption for him. He was very particular. He didn't like yung 4-time MVP. No, he wanted to be described as one of the most loyal players ever for the Pure Foods franchise, and that he played the most number of consecutive games until Ellie Tenorio did. No, so broke that record. Pero yun ang gusto niya pag-usapan. Hindi yung 4-time MVP. Ang gusto niya credit talaga yung yung pagiging Iron Man niya tsaka ano. So there's something about them talaga, about those things.
Noel?
Well, yung sa akin talaga, health allowing, Abit Gidabin. I would love to speak to Abit Gidabin. Of course, alam naman natin that Abit suffered a stroke. Actually, I think more than once na nagka-stroke si Abit. But if he's able to recover and somehow be able to speak with us, I'm sure he has a lot of stories to tell from his yung growing up in nag-gangling, hindi pa siya magaling, and then to becoming a two-time MVP. And yung gusto ko talaga Nelson Asaytono. I want to find out what was the psyche behind the Nelson Asaytono infamy and the Nelson Asaytono legend also. And perhaps the last one I want to really talk to is probably the most colorful na hindi pa natin nakukuha rito is Rudy Distrito. Talaga, yung plight niya from being di ba? A PBA, the destroyer, tapos yun na nga, and then that case he had in the US, and then he's bouncing back from that. Yun na gusto ko yung mga life stories na of victory also at a certain point, from being at the lowest point talaga. I mean, Nelson talaga, I really feel Nelson should already be among the greatest PBA players of all time, but he's not yet there. Diba? He's not yet there.
As we say hi to Willie Generalao, maayong adlaw sa Willie. Nice to see you.
Coach.
Yeah.
Coach.
But guys, let me ask point blank. Do players who have had a string of controversies, do they become hesitant to appear not only in AEOB but in other formats as well? Do they fear that these old wounds will be revived? They've forgotten about this. Is that part of our job or part of the hesitancy to appear in a very good-natured, well-intentioned program such as yours?
I believe so. I believe so that there is hesitation on the part of certain players where we can't pinpoint what's holding them back really. But then if you look at the certain players who've either said no or said wait first, if you look at them, there might be certain stories about them kaya medyo ayaw nila.
The names that come to mind na gano'n yung hesitant, like Padim Israel. I went through all channels already para makuha si Padim. And we know Padim is not a shy person because pastor yan. But for some reason, he just doesn't want to talk about his basketball career.
Just shy.
Yeah, same thing also with Joy Carpio, di ba? I mean, I would love to have Joy Carpio na pero isa na Dondon Ampalayo, yung mga ganon, yung mga tipong ayaw nila, Jesse Soliano, mga natanong na namin na
maraming shy.
Have you ever encountered a player that said, "Don't ask me this" before the show?
Parang wala naman.
Parang meron.
Meron ba? Isa? Dalawa?
Without mentioning any names, in other words, before I go on, I say yes, but please let's pakiusap lang, and not in a demanding fashion, but kung pwede lang, huwag natin pag-usapan ito. Meron ba?
I think meron.
Parang may import, di ba? May import na sinabi na let's just not go here. May ganun na import. I remember. Parang import just not go to this direction, and we did our best not to. Pero I think I somehow did.
Yeah, there's one local also.
Me being
early
me.
episodes. In the early episodes, there's one local player who said na hindi.
Don't go in that direction.
Jay, you have a question for the guys?
Yeah, what's the common denominator? I'm sabihin, sino yung pinakamadaling invited? Ito ba yung mga superstars? Ito yung mga dating bench players, dating role players? Or who are the easiest to invite basically?
Wala, case-to-case basis yan. But I think the not superstars would be the easiest siguro.
And what's the incentive behind it? Ano yung nakukuha nila whenever when you invite them? Anong tingin mo nakukuha nila for appearing?
Wow, I think they appreciate the fact
to answer that question, to answer that question is they have a story to tell and they want to tell their story. May mga ganong talagang they write to us. Some of the players, di ko lang babanggitin ko sino, they write to us and say, I have a story to tell, guest me on your show. Ito na mismo actual players na they reach out to us already. And I think that started after not really the Martes Aldana episode, but after the Abby King episode. Doon nagsimula talaga sila naglabasan lahat. Uy, ako rin. May storya din ako parang si Abe. Because I feel in all of our episodes, I think Abe was the most emotional episode. One of the most emotional episodes actually that we ever had. And Abe King actually cried on air. We did not expect na iiyak si Abe King on air. Diba? This big tough guy.
Tough guy, But I guess I guess what we also have to understand is that based on Jay's question is that for these guys, we were all young once, and this was a great time, part of our lives, and maybe nowadays a lot of people don't ask us about that anymore, and that's why they have a story to tell. Now, let's bring this almost to a finish. What can you tell your followers, each one of you, I'll start with Sid. What's your message? Napaka-showbiz, but let's do this. Anong message nyo sa inyong mga followers? And we can go Nora Bilma. Sid, let's start with you.
Well, teka, nag-free ba ako? Okay lang? Free, so
Yeah, we can hear you.
Narinig ka namin, Sid.
Okay.
Sige,
Well,
Sid, muna. You can thank fans.
Sorry.
Sino pwede?
Sid na muna. Sige, okay na yata siya.
Sige, Sid, you okay?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I just like to talk about the following we built up. Practically all organic yan. I only pushed one episode on Facebook, yung tinatawag na promote ng Facebook. Only one episode lang yun. It was a team one episode. All the other episodes organic lahat yan, ipag-share and the word of mouth na spread about the show. We did not do any artificial pushing or for the episode. So dahil doon nakapasalamat ako sa fans, sa very loyal fans. We have a very solid following. The same people watch, nadadagdagan almost every episode. And you can see now they're still very engaged. And I think that's also one thing that sets us apart. We engage our audience regularly. We involve them in the questions and in the show, their comments. We nag-shout out kami for whenever they're watching. So yun, that's one thing na I'm very appreciative about sa following namin. They're really solid and they're very, very knowledgeable. If one person may mistake, kahit guest namin, kinokorek nila eh. Diba? Kahit guest namin eh. Mo maiwasan yun, diba? May guests na they get their years mixed up already. Right. Diba? They say na, oh no, I didn't play against the player anymore. Pero actually, he did. Nakalimutan lang niya. Nakalaban niya. The fans will immediately point it out. He so retired in so nakabutan mo dapat yun. Yung mga ganon, I'm very thankful na we have very knowledgeable and very active fans.
Well said. Noel, ikaw na.
The fans are always going to be there. I learn a lot from the fans pagdating sa when I read the comments after the show, kung anong nakikita lang nag-appreciate. Unahan pa nga kami minsan kasi the three of us have access to the AEOB page, so we can interact as AEOB anytime pag nitignan namin yung mga comments ng mga fans. Minsan nag-uunahan pa kami kung sino magla-like ng mga ibang comments, and some of them are very supportive always sa ginagawa namin dito. They've always had our backs, they've always given us all sorts of support. But I also want to give a special thanks to our friends from Globally Ballin talaga. I think when guys like Aaron came in, when Aaron came into the picture, things sort of went into, hindi nakasamin yung production side, which was really hard because naalala ko, one of our best episode was the Abby King episode, pero si Sid yung TD nun. So, hindi namin alam kung nasa kami pupunta, kung kailan kami titingin. But when Globally Ballin came in, it sort of put everything into just concentrate on the show and we're gonna do the rest for you. That for me is the biggest takeaway also. But the fans talaga, you guys are the best, and we hope that you stay loyal with us forever. And we're trying our best to give you the guests that you want. Medyo mahirap sometimes, but who knows? Baka mamaya makuha nga namin yung guest that you want.
Before Charlie speaks, ang dapat man naitanong pala natin, Jay, is sinong gusto nyo maging repeat? Di ba? Yes, di ba? Kasi lagi lang sinasabi sa mga show, kulang na ang time. Siguro we need another episode.
Part 2.
But that's a question for the second year. And let's do the awards, ha? Magandang concept from the fans. That's a great idea. Attorney, bring us home.
Okay, well, for me, syempre yung fans, I thank them because they follow us and they really support us very well, but also because they educate us, and they're such a learned bunch of followers, and so we gain a lot from them as well. If they gain pleasure from watching our shows, we love the fact that they're there to support us and to supply the details that we do not know. Shout out as well to Globally Ballin and Aaron's team for helping us out.
Hey, Andy Fields!
Yeah. Hey, Andy, what's up? From the Glenn McDonald episode onwards, we've been on StreamYard. We shifted from Zoom. Thanks to Globally Ballin for that. Big shout out, of course, to this guy, Jay Mercado. Maraming salamat
Yeah.
pare sa tulong mo. You pinch hit for the host who can't make it. You've been here, I think 3 or 4 times already, and you provide us during the show with your info. Alam natin, encyclopedia ng basketball ito si Jay, particularly tungkol sa PBA. So salamat din sa iyo, partner. Pero sa akin, one thing that really, and I want to point this out, and I appreciate this, and I'm not belittling the other followers, but I love the fact that our former guests and hopefully our future guests and the mga former players, they watch this show again and again. You see, Bernie Fabiosa is watching, Ricky Relosa is watching, Emer Legaspi is
Ray
watching,
Lasco.
Alan Caidic is watching, Ray Lazaro. And then Romulo Mamaril, he comments, he watches. Dennis Abatuan, he watches, he comments also. Aldo Perez all the time. So, and these guys, and we appreciate that, because if you appreciate this show, that means a lot to us. That means there's something good about it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sid, I will be the custodian here. Sid will have the final say, and then we'll bring it to a close. I have to say a few plugs to bring this show to a close. By the way, guys, thank you for inviting. Please do not invite me.
Thank you, Sev.
Do not invite me again until the next year anniversary, huh? So that. Yeah, Sid, go.
Yeah, well, I forgot also to thank Globally Ballin, and I also wanted to thank the other people who have helped us along the way. Early on, Michael Yu was also very active and looking for guests, particularly in the US. And then, Winston Baltasar helped also in securing some of the guests. But
Coach Jan Marnedo also.
Coach Jalma. And I just wanted to speak lang as a fan. Because all of us started as fans muna, before we became media people covering this game. That's how we got interested. And I just like to say lang na this show has really affected me as a basketball fan, really, really, positively. When guests they give us mga behind the scenes stuff, people people they've talked to, and it's so thrilling to hear those those never before heard stories. And also, as a basketball fan, it gives me, sometimes you see how these players approach the game. Na-appreciate ko yun yung kanilang basketball minds, they show it on the show. For example, Ronnie Magsano, we asked him sino yung mga nahirapan kang bantayan na players. And he'd rattle off, ganyan. Siyempre, Johnny A, ganyan. Pero very revealing, sinabi niya, yung mga nahirapan siya, Marty Saldana, and hindi hinakalaw. Bakit? Because nautakan nila ako Hirap na hirap ako pag nautakan ako ng player. So that was very revealing. Ganun para sila mag-isip. And then another famous line I remember, Bong Alvarez. We asked him to describe yung mga high flyers nung panahon niya, Bernal Meneses, Samboy, Jolas, and he had this very interesting take. Sabi niya, Meneses and Jolas and all the others, mataas sila tumalon. Yes. Pero si Samboy Lim, matagal sa ere. Ang galing nung may mga classifications pala siyang ganun, na iba sa kanya yung mataas tumalon sa matagal sa ere, kaya mas bilib siya kay Samboy Lim. So yung mga ganong nuggets of information, as a basketball fan, I really, really, really appreciated it. And parang kilig na kilig ako, like a kid in a candy store. So I just like to say na, talking to these idols of mine in the 80s and 90s, it's really been very fulfilling.
Okay, this story could go on, and these three guys are still raising their hands. They still have things they want to add. Do not add anymore. Sid has had the final say. We'd like to thank Jay Mercado for pitching in and helping us co-host today. We'd like to thank also Globin Ballin's big boss Aronson. Yeah, whatever. For joining us here today. But Aaron, thank you very much. And Claude Gabriel for supporting us today. And thank you for watching this episode, this anniversary episode. Let's put it this way. Basketball is life, and the story as it is played here in the Philippines has not even begun. Thank you for joining us. In behalf of all of these people who are in this platform, thank you for joining us. It has been and will continue to be an eternity of basketball. Thank you.
Congratulations, everyone.
Salamat.
Thank you guys. Thank you
Thanks,
for
sir.
everything.
Wala na impersonation mo? Someone was requesting
Oo nga.
Hindi na? Hindi na?
Huwag na.
Okay.
Salamat po.
Thank you.
See you next week.